Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
Yep, Nicholas Guarino, Guarino.
And how are you employed, sir?
I work for the Massachusetts State Police.
And how long have you been a member of the Massachusetts State Police?
This is my 9th year now.
Now, prior to working with the State Police, what, if any, prior experience did you have in the field of law enforcement?
I was a local police officer in Norwood for almost 11 years.
Now, with respect to your role within the State Police, where is it that you work now?
I currently work at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office.
And within the detective unit, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And with respect to that, what, if any, specialized role do you have within the detective unit attached to the Norfolk DA's office?
Yeah, I conduct cell phone forensics, computer forensics, and I also do sexual assault investigations.
Now, with regard to the electronic forensics, what, if any, specialized training have you received in that particular area?
I have about 300 or so hours Cellbrite, CCO, CCPA, cell phone repair forensics, Burla motor vehicle forensics, Axiom magnet cell phone and computer forensics, X-Ways. These are all different programs used for cell phone and computer forensics.
Now, sir, at some point, did you become involved in the investigation involving the defendant, Karen Reed?
Yes.
And with respect to that, let me just ask you, at some point, did you become aware of an affidavit from a defense expert named Richard Green?
Yes, I have.
And sometime following that, did you have occasion to reach out to Cellbrite with regard to what had been posited by Mr. Green as in regard to two Google searches contained within Jennifer McCabe's phone?
Yes, I did.
And eventually, at some point, did you have occasion to speak with the gentleman who came in here right before you, Mr. Ian Whiffen?
Yes, I did.
So that wasn't Trooper Proctor that had reached out to Mr. Whiffen or had any communication that you're aware of with Mr. Whiffen, correct?
No, I reached out after the defense expert's findings were released, and I read his report.
And did you also have occasion to review a report from a Miss Jessica Hyde?
Yes, I did.
And with respect to those two reports, what, if any, conclusions or opinions did you come to independently in relation to those opinions of Ms. Hyde and Mr. Whiffen? Objection.
Sustained.
Now, Trooper Guarino, you had mentioned that you've had specialized training in regard to something called Burla, correct?
Yes.
Could you please explain to the jury what Burla is and how is it used in criminal investigations in your line?
So Burla is a specialized hardware and software used to download the infotainment and telematics modules in a vehicle. So telematics module is basically like the SIM card for the car, and the infotainment system is your radio head unit that enables you to have Apple Play, CarPlay, or Android or Google Play for the vehicle.
And at some point, were you made aware of a search warrant that was authored in regard to seizing the infotainment system from Ms. Reed's vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And just so the record is clear, can you describe Ms. Reed's vehicle as far as what type of vehicle we're talking about?
Yes, it's a Lexus LX 570 SUV.
And specifically on February 2nd, 2022, did you have occasion to remove that infotainment system from the vehicle pursuant to that search?
Yes, I did.
And once that item was removed from the defendant's vehicle, what, if anything, did you do with it?
After we removed it from the vehicle, it was brought back to Norfolk DA's office for data extraction, or attempt to.
And that data extraction, if you know, based on your training experience, sort of how is that conducted, or what is the process of extracting data from using Burla?
Yeah. So depending on the system, it's dismantled. They have the specialized hardware that actually goes onto the motherboards of these systems, and we're able to pull the data. Or the other option, if that's not viable, is to do a chip off, where we have to basically destroy the motherboard and take the memory chips off the devices to try to get the data that way.
Now, with reference to this specific device, what, if any, efforts did you undergo in order to extract the information without using the chip on?
So at the time that we pulled the system, it was not supported. I emailed Burla and called them, see if they had a timeline of when this might be supported so we could get the data. We deemed chip off as a last resort because it is a destructive process. So once those memory chips are taken off, the likelihood of trying to reattach them and get it to work again is very slim.
Let me stop you there for a second. When you talk about an item being supported, what does that mean?
Whether or not Burla has the ability to pull the data from that vehicle.
And how is that sort of determined, or how are you able to ascertain whether or not a particular vehicle, make, model, manufacturer is supported by the Burla device?
They have an app, and they also have their tech support. But if you put in the VIN of the vehicle, or if you don't have the VIN, you have the make, model, and trim level, like limited or XLE or whatever, you would be able to go in and look it up and basically say, Burla will tell you, yes, it's supported for GPS points, or it's supported for diagnostic data, or, whatever that they're able to get out of the vehicle. And they work with the automakers to get these, get this data. So.
And approximately how many different types of if we're looking at sort of the entirety of different makes and models of manufacturers, if you know sort of what percentage of those types of vehicles are actually supported and Burla can actually extract information?
I don't know as of right now. It's a lot, and they're constantly updating it, so they are able to do more vehicles as time goes on.
Now, at this particular time, as you sit here today, on June 17, 2024, the vehicle that the defendant was operating on January 29, 2022, is that vehicle available or supported by Burla at this time?
The trim level that the defendant had is not still supported. There is Toyota and Lexus support now, but it's not, unfortunately, for her model.
Now, you mentioned that you had reached out to the Burla company for updates as far as the availability or when the defendant's vehicle might be supported. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And about how many times and over what time period are we talking about that you reached out to ascertain?
Immediately when I did the extraction, I should say extraction, but when I took the system out of the vehicle, I had to reach out to Burla because where it wasn't supported, they actually had to send me tech diagrams so I could go in and, again, not destroy the whole vehicle as I just took those components out. Over the next, almost 2 years, year and a half of going back and forth with them, with their support and their sales team. And
when you say going back and forth, about how often were you reaching out to them, or how often were you getting a response in regards to the Burla?
Usually every few months, I want to say every 3 months, give or take. I forget the exact number, but phone calls or an email to them asking.
Now, beyond that, are you familiar with a National Cyber Crime Conference?
Yes.
And do you attend that on an annual basis at least?
Yes, I do.
And with respect to that, what, if any, time at those conferences did you spend dedicated to ascertaining the availability or the supportability of this vehicle with reference to Burla?
So Burla has a booth at the National Cybercrime Conference. I spoke with their sales team there. Their response was to keep calling Burla, keep pestering them, and they might actually get the support sooner than later.
And again, were you ever able to ascertain or get the support to download the information from them?
No, unfortunately.
Now, at some point, were you able to download any information from that particular infotainment system from the defendant's vehicle?
And not from the infotainment system, but Burla released a new item similar to a mechanic scan tool. It plugs into the OBD2 port, which is underneath the dash. So basically, if a mechanic went in there with a scan tool to tell you why you have a check engine light, this does something similar. So you plug it in, and then it pulls the car diagnostic data from that.
And as far as the data that you received from that, what, if anything, did you observe?
Again, I got a series of 14s was the numbers. It was no readable data. I reached out to Berla and asked them, I said, is there a reason why I pulled this data, but when I put it into the software, it's not telling me anything. It's not giving me any readable data. And they said they know it is diagnostic data, but they haven't got anything from Lexus to say these 14s, these codes mean this. They only know it as emissions.
So was Berla itself able to read that information and transform that sort of binary code into any sort of readable data for you?
Other than the number 14, no.
Now, from there, what, if anything, did you do with regard to the Berlin, the defendant's vehicle?
Was placed back into our digital evidence lab, and then we did eventually do a chip off to the device.
Now,
I should put devices.
with respect, to the chip off, that was done sometime in December of 2023, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And again, if you could expound upon a little as far as, can you describe for the jury sort of the chip off process, why you were reluctant to do it, and what's entailed in it?
As I said before, it is a destructive process. As soon as we do it, we take those memory chips off. It's applying extreme amounts of heat to the motherboards to take the memory off. That'll heat it. You lose a lot of the soldering and capacitors, anything that's on that motherboard. So, like I said, once the memory chips are taken off, it's going to destroy the board.
And as far as that chip-off process, who, if anyone, was present with you, or who, if anyone, assisted you in removing that or conducting that chip-off process with regard to the motherboard from the infotainment system from the defendant's vehicle?
I'm sorry, at the time that we actually did the chip off?
Yes.
Yeah. It was myself, AG Speak, and Maggie Gaffney.
And who is AG Speak?
AG Speak has his own forensic company, I guess you could call it, for Berla. I could consider an expert in the field, former California Highway Patrol officer that exclusively handled stolen cars.
And who is Ms. Gaffney?
She was the defense's expert. She's the one who actually did the chip off, applying the heat and taking the chips off in our presence. And she, I believe, works for, I'm sorry, the name of the company escapes me at the moment.
Now, with respect to the information that you, Ms. Gaffney, and Mr. Speak were able to remove pursuant to that chip-off process, what, if any, usable information were you able to glean from that?
As I was told by AG, there was no data that was recovered off the infotainment system or the telematics module from the chip off.
And as far as Ms. Gaffney, did you have any conversation with her as far as the information that she was able to glean or read or decipher from?
No, once she did the chip off, I had not spoken with her since.
You have a moment, John?
Yes.
Now, Guarino, at some points in late January, early February 2020, were you provided with some a laptop and/or desktop computers from the home of Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, I was.
And what, if anything, did you do with those?
One was a Dell laptop, the other was a HP all-in-one desktop. I removed the hard drives from both systems and used...
Objection, may you be seen anywhere?
Okay. All right, Mr. Lally, you can continue.
So, Trooper Guarino, there was a Dell laptop and an HP Pavilion all-in-one desktop, correct?
Yes.
These were taken from Mr. O'Keefe's home, is that correct?
Yes, they were.
What, if anything, did you do with respect to those computers?
As I said, I took the hard drives out of both machines. They were imaged, and the images were loaded into Axiom to view the data that was on them.
Now, when you say something was imaged, can you explain to the jury what you mean by that?
It's a bit-for-bit copy of the hard drive. instead of us turning it on and going through it, which would change data, by taking the hard drives out and imaging them, it creates a one-for-one copy, so that way we can view it without changing anything in the system.
And you mentioned a tool called Axiom, is that correct?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury sort of what is that Axiom tool and how does it work?
Yeah, it's another forensic tool that we use. Can do cell phones, computers. You'll use it to load the images so we can view the data.
And with respect to the imaging that was done with regard to the Dell laptop and the desktop, what, if anything, was it that you were looking for specifically on those devices?
We were looking for Ring video to see if either computer was used by Officer O'Keefe as a login machine to handle the account.
And from your review of what was extracted or imaged from each of those two respective computers, what, if any, information were you able to glean in reference to Ring.com or anything else?
Neither computer was used. One appeared to be used mostly by the kids, and the other, I believe it was the laptop, was used mostly by O'Keefe, but there were no Ring logins.
As far as the Ring connection, what, if any, devices were you, throughout the course of the investigation, were you able to ascertain were actually connected to the Ring cameras at Mr. O'Keefe's house?
Officer O'Keefe's cell phone.
Now, if there were any other devices, whether they were Mr. O'Keefe's or someone else, ascertained from either the Ring footage or the information provided by Ring, whether or not there were any other devices beyond Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone that were linked to that account?
Not that I know of.
And I'm sorry, just not that there weren't any devices or not that you could tell?
Not that I could tell or that I ever heard of.
Now, Trooper Guarino, let me ask you some questions just in general about a cell phone extraction. You familiar with that term?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury sort of what is involved in that and how a cell phone extraction is performed as far as your experience with regard to investigations that you've been involved in?
Yeah. So most investigations, we get the cell phones from the scene, from a suspect, from a victim. They're put into airplane mode to preserve the data, so that way a remote wipe can't be sent to the phone from iTunes. If we can't put it into airplane mode, we'll put it into a Faraday bag, which blocks the cell phone signal. And then it's brought back to the lab and put into a Faraday box, which has electrical outlets inside of it, so that way we can keep the phone charged.
And with regard to this investigation, you involved in the extraction of data or the examination of extracted data from any particular phones?
Yes, I did John O'Keefe's phone, Karen Reed's phone, and we had two witnesses' phones, but I don't remember doing the extractions themselves.
But as far as the data from those phones, have you had opportunity to look at that data? And specifically, I'm asking about both Jennifer McCabe's phone and Ms. Carrie Roberts' phone.
Yes, I have.
Now, were you also at some point provided with some material from Brian Higgins' phone?
Yes, I saw screenshots of text messages.
And from the material that you were provided with reference to Mr. Higgins' phone, were you then able to cross-reference that eventually at some point with respect to the information in both Ms. Reed's phone and Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
Yes, I was.
From what you reviewed, was the information contained within the material provided by Mr. Higgins, was that consistent with what you observed in Ms. Reed's phone as well as Mr. O'Keefe's?
Yes, I didn't see any differences in those messages.
Now, with respect to, starting with Ms. Reed's phone, that was received by you on January 29th, 2022, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you recall about what time it was and where you were when you received that phone?
I want to say 6 or 7 o'clock at night at the Norfolk DA's office.
And who did you receive that phone from?
Trooper Proctor.
And with reference to that phone, what condition was it in at the time as far as you referenced airplane mode, Faraday bag, things of that nature? How was it sort of when you received it?
I believe it was in airplane mode. The phone was in good working order, and it was placed downstairs in our lab plugged in to keep the phone battery charged.
Now, the same with respect to Mr. O'Keefe's phone. When and from whom did you receive that, and what kind of condition was that in when you received it?
I also got that from Trooper Proctor, the same time as Miss Reed's phone. Same condition.
Now, with respect to the defendant's phone, at the time that you received it, did you have any passcode or any way to get into the phone?
I'm sorry, whose phone?
Ms. Reed's phone.
Oh, no. The software we use to try to bypass passwords to be able to extract the evidence, or I should say the extraction of the data to look for evidence, her phone at that time was not supported.
Now, what, if anything, did you do with her phone in regard to that?
Again, made sure it was in airplane mode and just kept it plugged in until such time as the phone was supported, and then we could download it.
Familiar with the device called the Gray Key?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what that is and what, if anything, you did with regard to the defendant's phone and the Gray Key device?
Yep. So Gray Key is, again, specialized hardware and software used to plug in the phones, can do Apple or Android phones to bypass passwords.
And how does that sort of function, or how does that work as far as when you hook something, a cell phone or a cellular device, up to a Gray Key tool? What is it doing and how does it work?
If I knew that, I'd be a millionaire. But it basically installs software onto it, and instead of when you put in 10 passcodes to an iPhone, on the 10th one, if it's wrong, it kills the phone forever. This has some secret software that's able to bypass that and basically keep hitting the phone with passcodes until it finds the right one.
So it essentially runs a bunch of different combinations of passcodes into the phone until it comes up with one that actually opens the phone.
Yes, that's correct.
And at some point, did the Gray Key device actually break into the defendant's phone?
Yes, it did.
Do you know about when that was in relation to when you received it?
Yeah, so we got the phone in January. It took, I believe support came out in, I want to say May or June. I don't remember the exact month, but we didn't actually get the passcode until August 16th of 2022.
And once that passcode was actually broken into by the Gray Key device, then you're able to look into the phone, is that correct?
Yes, once the passcode's obtained, we download the data, and then we're able to take that extraction data and then open it up in Cellbrite or Axiom or whatever tool we're going to use to view it.
And the tools, as far as you're referring to, Cellbrite and Axiom, are you familiar with those tools through your course of your work as investigator with regard to electronic devices?
Yes.
And if you could explain to the jury sort of when you say Cellbrite and Axiom, as far as then tools are concerned, how do they work and sort of what is it that you do with the device with reference to Cellbrite?
So what do we do with the extractions once we go to open them?
Well, how is the information extracted, first of all, and then what, if anything, do you do with the map?
So Gray Key will pull the extraction. It just, once the code's received, it, again, uses its software, pulls the data out, puts it into an encrypted, it's MD5 or SHA. It's a encryption key that has, it's a unique key that, so if you changed anything inside that zip file, it would change the encryption number to show that something was tampered with. We take that encrypted zip file and we open it up in the software, and that's able to say, you know, the call logs, the chats, the photos, the whole timeline of the phone.
Now, in addition to yourself, is there anyone else that works in this sort of capacity within your unit at the district attorney's office?
Yes, 2 other people.
And who are those 2 other people?
The director of our lab, Samantha Vogt, and Trooper Connor Keefe.
Now, beyond yourself, Trooper Keefe, and Ms. Vogt, anybody else from the detective unit, as far as the troopers, would they have access to these devices, being defendants, Mr. O'Keefe's, Ms. McCabe's, or Ms. Roberts?
If they're in the digital evidence lab, no. Once the data is extracted from them, normally we give them back to the investigator or return to family. So that would be the only time that they would have access to the devices, or unless we kept them in the lab for just for, I don't want to say safekeeping, but just for storage reasons.
Now, with reference to your review of any of the extractions related to any of those 4 devices, at any point in time, did you observe anything in reference to any information being taken off or deleted from any of those devices at any point in time?
No, sir.
Now, with respect to Ms. Reed's device, the defendant's device, it was sometime in August of 2022 that the gray key was able to break into the passcode and get into the device, correct?
That's correct.
And so then, once an extraction is done, that's then subsequently reviewed by someone within your unit, is that correct?
Yes. So, again, normally the investigators for the homicides know far more information about the crime and what occurred. So if need be, I'll load the phone up for them. They can go through it because they know what they're looking for. If they ask me, I'm happy to go through. If they can say, I'm looking for calls between this time period or, GPS locations, things like that.
Now, with reference to the defendant's phone, at some point were you made aware that there was some privileged information contained within her phone?
Yes, I was.
So as a result of that, what, if anything, happened with the phone from there?
We notified our supervisors, and we did not look at her extraction until the privileged communications could be removed, and then we could, again, go back and re-inspect the data.
Now, as far as that whole process that was undertaken in regard to that, how long a time period, or when was it that you were able to have the privileged information extracted and then actually get to look at the defendant's phone?
It took months. I don't think we got it back from the AG's office until later, springtime of 2023-ish.
Now, with respect to the extraction from each of these 4 respective devices, that being the defendants, Mr. O'Keefe, Mr. Caves, and Ms. Roberts, what kind of tools were used to conduct those extractions, sir?
Gray key, Windows 10, and then Cellbrite Physical Analyzer and Axiom, their program, Magnets program.
And so as far as, I guess my question is, as far as the different devices that are used, why are there different devices and what is it that, say, one does versus the other?
So they both do great work with, decoding the data. I've noticed that Axiom does a better job at pulling GPS spots because it gives a speed and a estimated range of how strong the GPS signals are, as opposed to Cellbrite. They give native locations, but they don't have that extra data with it. So I like to look at both tools to make sure that I'm seeing everything that I need to.
Now, with respect to the defendant's phone, you at some point reviewed the extraction from the defendant's phone, correct?
Yes, I did.
And with respect to that phone, what, if anything, did you observe with regard to GPS locations associated with that device?
I didn't see that many, maybe a handful showing different spots in Canton, but nothing that stood out to me.
Now, with respect to your review of the phone, what, if anything, were you able to ascertain as to whether or not those GPS locations were allowed or permitted or turned off or on by a user?
I can't say. I didn't see anything, like I said, that stuck out to me. Normally, if the GPS points aren't there, then location services are probably turned off.
So what I'm asking, though, is the device itself was capable of retaining that data as far as GPS locations, correct?
Yes, if it's turned on.
And there were no real GPS locations to speak of that you observed in your review of the extraction of the defendant, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, with regard to Mr. O'Keefe's phone, what, if anything, were you able to ascertain from that as far as GPS locations were concerned?
There's quite a bit, especially on January 29th.
Now, sir, before we get into that, if I could ask you some questions in regard to Mr. Cave's phone extraction. You had occasion to review that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so In regard to that also, you had mentioned that you had reviewed an affidavit from a defense expert or defense witness named Mr. Richard Green, correct?
That's correct.
And based on your review of that, what, if anything, based on your review of what Mr. Green said or did, what, if anything, did you then do with regard to Ms. McCabe's phone?
So I basically went point by point through his report to confirm or deny if what he was placing in there was true.
And what, if anything, were you able to ascertain or learn from going through Ms. McCabe's phone with reference to what Mr. Green stated? Objection.
I'll allow that.
It was mostly incorrect.
And when you say mostly incorrect, what was mostly incorrect?
So he states that there's a Google search that's done at 2:27 in the morning that immediately stuck out to me because when I went back and looked, that file that was parsed was not from the database that should have showed searches. This came from the session state tabs for Safari, which is a big red flag. It also came from a wall file, which is a dropping ground for where data is put before it's actually put into the main database itself. And then once it reaches a certain point, that data is automatically deleted by the device, not by a user, which Mr. Green had stated that a search was done and then it was purposely deleted. There was also items regarding phone calls being deleted. Again, they came from a wall file. Looking at it, again, it's stored in the knowledge seed, the main database. It's also stored in the biome, showing in the extraction, which is another storage area that Apple is using. Again, nothing, most of the stuff that I was reading in his report was either incorrectly, I don't know, written down or he's interpreted it incorrectly.
Now, with regard to the phone calls or the contacts that Mr. Green indicated were user deleted or deleted by the user, what, if any, information did you look in regard to that? What, if any, did you ascertain in regard to that?
Yeah, so he stated that Ms. McCabe had deleted 18 phone calls from the morning after John O'Keefe's body was found. Looking at the data from her call log, those calls, while they do show marked as deleted, again, they come from the wall file and they're also located in two other parts of the database. Again, as a user of an iPhone, you can't go in and just delete these files. They're handled by the operating system. It's impossible.
So as far as what, if any, opinion do you, well, let me ask you this first. As far as a wall or a writing log file, can you explain that, what you understand that term to mean to the jury as it pertains to these particular items?
Yeah, so as I said, these files are dropping ground. So when you're using your apps, using the phone, it takes that data, puts it into this wall file until you either close the app or you shut down the phone, or it reaches a certain number of data in the phone. That wall file will automatically delete from the phone. So this can be on a first in, first out basis. Again, like I said, it could be when data reaches a certain level, but those calls that are being marked as deleted, Celebrate seeing, it doesn't mean the user deleted them. It just means they're being removed from the wall file.
And you indicated that from your review of the phone extraction, there were other areas or other databases, bases, within the phone that contain that same information? Yes.
So the main database of the iPhones is the Knowledge C database. They're also using Biome, and then if you're using the newer software now, it's another area I won't bore you with, but depending on the iOS you're using for the phone, it's going to depend on where that data is being stored.
Now, specifically with respect to Ms. McCabe's phone, one of the contentions Mr. Green had was in regard to a contact for Brian Albert. Is that correct?
Yes, that was another one.
With respect to that, what, if anything, were you able to find within Ms. McCabe's phone in regard to contact information for Brian Albert?
Yeah, so Mr. Green's report said that he located a deleted screenshot of Brian Albert's contact. That was in her phone. The contact for Brian Albert was still in her phone, not deleted. So I don't know, maybe she just deleted the screenshot.
Now, with respect to Ms. McCabe's phone, what, if anything, did you do with regard to the call log history in Ms. McCabe's phone?
I exported it all out to a PDF so I could view it. And again, like I said, there's, I think, 1,104 phone calls from going all the way back to October of 2020, I want to say. And phone calls, FaceTime, they're all, the calls are there, all the records, and they're all stored in different areas of the phone. The only ones that show the wall file deleted were the ones from the 29th going up to the end, towards the end of the day on the 29th.
And now, with respect to the call history, where or how is that typically stored within an iOS device?
I believe that's stored in the call stored dash SQLite database.
And with reference to what, if any, difference storage-wise is that SQLite database versus the wall file?
So again, that database where the call logs are sent, it's going to have a corresponding wall file where the data is going to be put temporarily. And then, as I said, it gets automatically deleted by the iOS, by the operating software. It's not user enabled.
And so from your review of those 1,104 phone call history records containing traction of Mr. McCabe's phone, what, if any, opinion do you have in regard to whether or not those items were deleted by any user?
I don't believe they were. And I will say one of the phone calls was from the actual main call stored database. That could have been user deleted but again, it's in two other spots in the operating system. So I don't know how or why the iOS stores it the way it does, and then marks what.
Now, sir, from your review of the 4 phone extractions that you reviewed in this case, were you able to export or print certain chat reports from specific people's phones or from specific people's phones with other individuals?
Yes, I was able to.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes.
And what do you recognize as?
The first page is Facebook Messenger chats between Karen Reed and John O'Keefe.
And what's contained in there, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed from the extraction from Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
Yes, it is.
And specifically with reference to those chats between Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, you also reviewed that material from the defendant's phone as well?
Yes, I did.
Material that you reviewed from the defendant's phone, is that consistent with what you observed in Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could request certain portions of what's been marked as Exhibit 48 being published to the jury as we go through them.
Okay.
Sir, if I could just start you out on page 1.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have that up on the screen. Now, with respect to what's up on the screen, the portion that you can see, do you recognize this, sir?
Yes, I do.
Now, we'll grab before you as Exhibit 48.
Yes.
Now, within this particular, from the perspective of this is from Mr. O'Keefe's phone, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So there will be blue bubbles and green bubbles, is that correct as well?
Yes.
And so who, as far as the blue bubbles are concerned, who is speaking in that?
The blue bubbles will be from Ms. Reed, and the green bubbles are from Officer O'Keefe.
Now, Ms. Gilman, if you could please scroll down. Now, with respect to what's contained on this page 1 at the bottom, if you could read the date and the time and indicate who is speaking and what is said there, sir.
Yeah. So the blue bubble is Karen Reed and 1/28/2022 at 3:30 p.m. Hello. John says hi at 3:35 p.m.
Sorry, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yep. Those are the Facebook ones.
I'm sorry. What's contained in Exhibit 48 is the entirety of the chat report from Mr. O'Keefe's phone, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I apologize. Showing you another document. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be, sir?
These are the native chats, native messages from John O'Keefe and Karen Reed.
So these are just specifically broken down as far as the chats between Mr. O'Keefe's phone and Ms. Reed's phone, correct?
Correct.
And as far as your review of both of the extractions from both of those phones, the material contained within Mr. O'Keefe's phone is consistent with the material contained in the defendant's phone, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'll move to seek to introduce and admit as an exhibit. Okay.
Okay.
So the 620.
627.
Yes. If that could be returned to the witness, Your Honor, if we could, with the court's permission, if we
Go right ahead.
And now, Trooper Guarino, do you recognize what's up on the screen as the next exhibit, sir? Ms. Gilman, I'm sorry, if you could scroll down just a little bit.
Yes.
And again, from this first page, if you could, the blue bubble is from Ms. Reed, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Being from Mr. O'Keefe, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you could, again, read from this first page as far as date, time, who is speaking, and what is said.
Yeah. At 9:49 a.m., Karen says, "You've really hurt me this time." 10:02 a.m., "I'm sorry. This is, sorry, it's kind of hard to read. I'm sorry, this has been an issue with me for 8 years. It physically hurts me to see everyone else in their life do things for them, and I'm forced to always be the bad guy." At 10:09 a.m., Karen says, "I am not the same as everybody else. Most of the time I try to do what is healthy/smart for them. More importantly, I try to support you and what you need. You just lashed out at me and said terrible things. I don't know how you've gone to this point with me, but I'm just trying my hardest. You made your point and continue to beat me down. I have a lot going on too. Physically, I'm falling apart and trying to get answers and help."
If I could stop you there, sir. If I could direct your attention to
Little louder, please, sir.
my apologies. Sir, if I could direct you to page 5.
Okay.
I'm sorry, bottom of page 4.
All right.
And starting with the blue bubble on the bottom of page 4, again, if you could indicate as to who's speaking, what is said, and the date and time.
Yeah. Karen says to John at 1:21 p.m. on the 28th, "Maybe you can call someone."
If you could continue
Yep.
on and through page 5, sir.
On the 28th at 1:46 p.m., John says, "Like who?" On 1:47 p.m., "What time are you coming here?" And then there is, at 2:05, there's a message but no content.
And the next message at 2:06, sir.
Yes, 2:06 from Karen. "I don't know what time, feel kind of out of it, just trying to clear my head." 2:06 p.m., John writes back, okay. 2:06 p.m. again. Karen says, text me later when you guys settle in later. Text me when you guys settle in later. John says, sure, at 2:06 p.m. again. Karen says at 2:16, I feel pretty shitty about this, I feel pretty shitty about how this morning went down. I know you said sorry, but it really stung, especially when I've been trying pretty hard lately. I feel like a loser turning around, just coming back over after everything you said.
If I could ask you to continue on to page 7, sir.
Okay. At 2:17 p.m., John says, not sure what else you want me to do. I said I'm sorry and I was out of line. If you prefer to stay home, I totally get it. Karen replies back at 2:17, things in my own life have been difficult too, you know. John writes back at 2:17, I know. At 2:25 p.m., tell me if you're interested in someone else. Can't think of any other reason you've been like this. From Karen.
You could continue on to page 8, sir.
At 2:25, John responds back, nope. Things haven't been great between us for a while. Ever consider that? That was at 2:26. At 2:29, he writes, kids are here, not in the mood to talk.
And how does the defendant respond to that at the bottom of page 8?
So you're not into it anymore. That's fine, but I don't want to keep trying, and you keep treating me like this. At 2:29 p.m.
If I could direct you to the next page 9.
Yep. Ms. Reed says, I'm trying to hug and kiss you this morning, and you whack me in the face with a pillow. At 2:29. At 2:30, she says, last night you're basically like, yeah, what about? When we talk about the future. So why don't you just admit you're not into it so much anymore? At 2:30, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I said 2:30, John says, not how it went down, but okay.
Now does Ms. Reed respond to that?
Can you please admit your head is out of the game with us?
And if you could, sir, please continue on to the top of page 10.
Okay. At 2:32 p.m., sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. So yeah, I'm not as quick to jump back into being lovey-dovey as you apparently. From John. And then John again at 2:32. Oh my God, stop calling.
Okay, stop you there for just
Okay.
a moment, sir. With regard to January 28th, you were also able to extract a report specifically in regard to calls received by Mr. O'Keefe on that date.
Yes, I was.
I mean, on that date into the next date of January 29th.
Yes.
I approach, Your Honor.
Yes.
You recognize that, sir?
Yes, it's John O'Keefe's call log.
And that's the entirety of the call log from January 28th into 29th, is that correct?
Yes, from 28th at 9:19 a.m. to the 29th at 6:03 a.m.
And do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, this is Karen Reed's call log from January 29th at 12:33 a.m. to January 29th at 6:03 a.m.
And those are specifically calls between the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm off to seek introduction of as the next exhibit. No objection.
Thank you.
Now, Trooper Guarino, from the text messages that you were just testifying from, Mr. O'Keefe indicates OMG stop calling at 2:32 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, from your review of those call logs, how many times did the defendant call Mr. O'Keefe on January 28th from approximately 9:19 a.m. to about 2:58 p.m.?
There's 18 calls from 9:19 to about 2:59 p.m.
Those calls are listed within those records as various as far as rejected or missed or answered or things of that nature. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
How many of them are rejected?
11.
How many of them are missed?
4,
And how many are answered?
3.
Now, following that text message at 2:32 p.m. from Mr. O'Keefe to the defendant, asking her to stop calling him, does the defendant keep calling him?
Yes, she does.
And at some point, does Mr. O'Keefe call Ms. Reed back?
Yes, at about 3 p.m. on the 28th. Double check.
Thanks. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino, I can take each of the call logs, but I want you to keep, hold on for a second.
Okay.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention back to page 10 on the text messages with respect.
Okay, so, Mr. Lally, when you put your head down and when you walk away, we can't hear you. And so there won't be a record of this, so you have to keep your voice up.
I will do, Your Honor. I apologize.
Well, you just said, you just put your head down and your voice went down. So keep your voice up. It's really important you do so.
Trooper Guarino, turning your attention back to page 10 of these text messages, would read from Ms. Reed's response to Mr. O'Keefe at 2:32.
Yes, so 2:32 p.m., she says, why would you start with me this morning? And then followed up by 2:33, you're setting me up to fail.
If I could turn your attention to page 11 and ask you to continue from there.
Ms. Reed says, you start a number of fights from your end. John, and that's at 2:33. At 2:33, John writes back, I've explained it a few times already, not doing it again.
And how does the defendant respond to that?
So you're not into this anymore. And then John says, not into fighting all the time, correct. That's at 2:34 p.m.
If I could turn your attention to the top of page 12.
Yes, 2:34, Ms. Reed says, if you tell me you're interested in someone else, you will never hear from me again. You can have all the space in the world. John writes back, but there's no content at 2:34. And then at 2:34, she says, then stop starting with me.
How does Mr. O'Keefe respond to that?
At 2:34, he writes back, I'm not answering, stop calling.
And if you could, if I could turn your attention to the top of page 13.
Ms. Reed says, can you please answer after how you treated me earlier? John responds back at 2:35, Kaylee is right here. Ms. Reed says, you're starting a rager with me out of nowhere, and then you tell me you're sick of fighting with me at 2:35. And she writes at 2:38, I'm going to grab a drink in a bit.
If I could direct you to the top of page 14, sir.
She says, can you answer please at 2:38? He writes back at 2:39, no, Karen, not sure why you need to announce that you're going drinking, but have fun. Karen writes back at 2:40, seeing if you want to meet me later. Can you please call me right after that?
And again, if I could direct you to the top of page 15.
John writes back at 2:40, have to take him to the doctor, he has practice. Ms. Reed writes back, yeah, 5 minutes. John writes back at 2:43, my father just walked in. Aaron writes back, okay, can you please call me for 2 minutes at 2:44.
The top of page 16, sir.
2:44, John writes back, not right now. Aaron writes back, I'm there when anyone else needs me at 2:44. 2:46, yes, John, you gave me utter grief this morning. I'd like you to call me for a minutes.
And the last one from that page, sir.
Yeah. 2:47, I've been trying to get over the hump with is arguing, and now you tell me you're not into things. And if you don't want to fight weekly, but fly off the handle at 8 a.m. with me, like you're setting me up to fail.
Sir, if I could draw your attention to page 42.
Okay.
And sir, if I could ask you to start reading from the top of page 42.
Yep. At 7:41 p.m., Karen writes, okay, let me know if you end up leaving. John writes back at 7:42, why? Now you're not coming? Karen writes back, I'm waiting for the plumber. Actually think he's in the driveway. 7:42. John says 7:43, we're taking Mike's car, so I'm relying on you for a ride home if he leaves. Karen writes back at 7:43, he's not going home after. John writes back at 7:43, 8 on a Friday. He may have to get Michael. And you have a plumber coming over at 8. Knowing me and Papa could have handled it. Good luck. And that was at 7:44.
Thank you, sir. If I could direct your attention to page 49.
Okay.
If I could ask you to start from the page of 49, page 49, sir.
8:29 p.m. Yeah, but he lives right down the road. John writes back at 8:30. Karen, this storm is going to be intense. Can't drive. 8:30. She writes back, okay, well, if he can't, he can't. John writes back, I'll do it Monday. Karen responds at 8:31. I better not still have this problem on Monday. John writes back, plan on being there. Karen writes back at 8:32. I'd like to know I could take a hot shower here if I need to. John writes back, figured you'd be in Canton until Monday.
If I could direct you to the top of next page, 51.
John, I'm getting off my phone. Let me know what you're doing. Karen writes back at 8:33. I think the four of us together is toxic to this relationship. Would like to limit it. And says, you've said so yourself for probably a year now. And John writes back at 8:33. Blizzard tomorrow. Nobody is going anywhere.
Sir, if I could direct you to the top of page 52.
Okay. Karen says, maybe I'll come back late tonight. Bad snow is in the early a.m. That's at 8:35. And again, 8:35. I'll head up there in a few minutes. Let me know if you leave. John replies back, sure. And then the next one's not until 12:55 a.m. on the 29th. I'm going home.
And the I'm going home is from the defendant, 12:55 a.m., is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And if I could direct your attention to the top of page 53.
Yes, 12:55 again. See you later. At 1:02, your kids are cucking alone. 1:29, 1:04 a.m. I'm back in Mansfield. The kids are home alone.
Thank you, sir. Sir, may I approach to retrieve?
Yes. Can I see counsel at sidebar about scheduling?
Now, Trooper Guarino, you were also able to get some chats as well as some phone calls between the defendant and certain individuals. Is that correct?
Yes.
And may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And do you recognize those, sir?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
The single page is Karen Reed to Laura Sullivan phone calls, or I should say, yep, calls from Laura Sullivan to Karen Reed. And the other one is Karen Reed and Laura Sullivan's chat messages.
What's contained in those documents, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you were able to extract from the defendant's phone?
Yes, sir.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, showing you what's marked as exhibits 94 and then 95.
Yes. Sorry. They are chats between Karen Reed and Jen McCabe, text messages, and 95 is Karen Reed and Jen McCabe phone calls.
And again, what's contained in those records before you, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed in the defendant's phone during the course of your extraction of materials from her phone?
Yes.
I approach to retrieve, Your Honor.
Yes. So these are already in evidence, Mr. Lally, so that you don't need the fair and accurate depiction?
I approach again, Your Honor.
Yes. Juris, you know what? I'm going to send you home. Okay? So I need to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute to figure out the name. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Taking you back to the other day, I have been showing you, so you had testified about some extraction reports that you had conducted from the various forensic extractions that you had done pertaining to both the defendant's phone and Mr. O'Keefe's phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm showing you a document, asking to review that with a couple of finish.
Okay. Okay.
You recognize that, sir?
Yes, it's,
What do you recognize that to be?
sorry, Karen Reed's phone call logs.
And that's specifically from January 28th and January 29th, is that correct?
Yes, it starts the 28th at 12:33 to, I'm sorry, the 29th at 12:33 to 3:19 p.m. on the 29th.
And just for ease of reference, does it sort of go in descending order as far as the earlier calls are on the last page and then the more recent calls are on the first page?
Yes, that's correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to introduce the minutes and exhibit. May we approach, please?
Okay. Yes.
Showing you another document, sir. Do you recognize that?
Yes,
What do you recognize that to be?
this is Karen Reed and Kerry Roberts' call log.
And that's an extraction report that you created from the defendant's phone, is that correct?
Keep your voice up, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
Okay.
No objection.
It's 6:34.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you another document, sir. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
This is the chats from John O'Keefe and Chris Albert.
And again, that's an extraction report that you created from Mr. O'Keefe's phone, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit. No objection.
Mr. Lally, you really do need to keep your voice up.
It's 6:35.
And may I approach? Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you another document, sir. I ask you to look at that. Look up when you're finished.
Yes.
Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, this is Karen Reed's, the full chat report of everyone.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
So returning to you what's now been marked as Exhibit 636. Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I publish a portion of this to the jury?
Yes.
And sir, I'm going to direct your attention to the exhibit before you that's now been marked as Exhibit 636. And Ms. Gilman, if I could, I'm sorry, to Guarino and Ms. Gilman, if I could direct your attention to page 3. And do you have that before you, sir?
Yes, I do.
And on page 3, who was that a conversation with?
Laura Sullivan.
And that conversation essentially continues from page 3 to page 6, is that correct?
Yes, it does.
And so I'm going to ask you, similar to what I asked you the other day, if you could read from that conversation in its entirety, indicating who's speaking, content of what's being said, and the date and time associated with that message.
Yes. First message from Laura Sullivan at 12:45 p.m. on January 29th, 2022. Karen, it's Laura. Please call me. Karen says, hi, Laura, at 1:07 p.m. Karen then says, John passed away, 1:07 p.m. Laura, Karen, I'm shaking. I'm so sorry. At 1:07, Karen says, we found him outside in the snow at 5 a.m., 1:07 p.m. Laura, I can't stop crying, 1:07 p.m. again. Karen, thank you, 1:07. And Laura finally says, why was he out there, 1:07 p.m. Oh, sorry. Karen replies, he left the party we were at. I don't know what time. I didn't even go in. I went to bed. That's at 1:08 p.m. Laura says, oh my God, 1:08. Karen, my heart breaks for, my heart breaks for everyone at 1:09 p.m. So.
Thank you, sir. So in those text messages, Ms. Sullivan, in the afternoon of the 29th, she indicates to Ms. Sullivan that they located Mr. O'Keefe around 5 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 28 to 29 of those messages in the exhibit before you. In page 28 to 29, who's that conversation with?
This is Karen Reed and John O'Keefe.
These are conversations from the early...
I'm having trouble. Yes, go
These conversations on page 28 through 29 of this exhibit occur in the early morning hours of January 29th, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And if you could, sir, again, please read as far as who's speaking, what they're saying, and what date and time these are being sent.
Yes. So, Karen Reed to John O'Keefe at 12:55 a.m. on the 29th. I'm going home. Followed by, see you later. At 1:02 a.m., she texts John again saying, your kids are cucking alone. And at 1:04 a.m., she says, I'm back in Mansfield. The kids are home alone.
I'm showing you two documents. And Mr. Officer, we can put the lights on. You recognize each of those documents, sir?
Yes, one is Karen Reed call log report. Just want to confirm which one this is. Yeah. For John O'Keefe, and then John O'Keefe's full call log report on the 29th.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to the defendant, Ms. Reed's call log reports, and specifically, if I could draw your attention to what's been, they're enumerated as far as certain box numbers, correct? 1 through whatever it goes on the last page.
Yes.
If I could direct your attention to boxes 113 and 114.
Okay.
See those entries, sir?
Yes.
Now, as far as the time related to box 113 and 114, what are the timestamps associated with that?
1/29/2022 at 12:36 a.m. 41 seconds, and then another one at 12:36 and 10 seconds a.m. on the 29th.
And is there any indication within that report as far as whether or not those calls are answered, those calls are missed, those calls are rejected? What's listed?
It says answered.
And we'll get to this a little bit more in a moment, but with regard to that 12:36 time, from your review of both the defendant's phone and Mr. O'Keefe's phone, is there a voicemail that the defendant left Mr. O'Keefe at that time frame?
There was a voicemail at 12:37 a.m. These ones here, it looks like they're 3 seconds and 5 seconds long.
And they're listed as answered, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention over to Mr. O'Keefe's call report. And specifically, I'm going to ask you to direct your attention to what's been labeled as box number 134 and then 134 with the 1 in parentheses following that.
Okay?
And do you see those entries, sir?
Yes.
And what is the date and time associated with those entries in Mr. O'Keefe's records?
His records shows number 134 is 12:36, 9 seconds on the 29th, and then 134 with the 1 in the parentheses, 12:36 and 9 seconds as well. Call duration 0 seconds.
And as far as any indication on those calls, as far as whether they're answered, they're missed, they're rejected, or what are they listed as?
There's nothing. Also, 133 is the same call, and that one says missed, and it's at the same timestamp of 12:36 and 9 seconds.
So the same call around the same time frame shows up in Mr. O'Keefe's report as missed and shows up in the defendant's report as answered, correct?
That is correct.
And that is around the time that the defendant is calling the victim repeatedly and leaving voicemails on Mr. O'Keefe's phone.
Yes, that's correct.
May I approach just to retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Trooper Guarino, you conducted an analysis of both the defendant's phone and Mr. O'Keefe's phone, correct?
That is correct.
And from your analysis of that phone, were you able to determine approximately how many calls occurred from the defendant's phone to Mr. O'Keefe's phone from the time period shortly after 12:30 a.m. To the time period shortly after 6 a.m.?
There was over 50. I think it was 53 or 55.
And any of those calls from your review of those records indicate any sort of conversation as far as duration, as far as being labeled as answered, anything to that effect?
That Mr. O'Keefe actually picked up the phone and spoke to Ms. Reed?
Yes.
No.
Now, with regards to those phone calls from the defendant to Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, did you find from Mr. O'Keefe's phone in relation to voicemails left by the defendant?
There were 8 voicemails on Mr. O'Keefe's phone from the 29th till the phone was discovered. All from Ms. Reed, no one else.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
When you were this, sir, you recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
It's the John O'Keefe voicemails from Karen Reed on his phone.
From that period that we were just speaking about on January 29th?
Yes, that's correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to introduce in a minute the next exhibit. We have no objection.
Okay. It's 6:37.
Now, sir, from your review of the defendant's phone, before we get to those, from your review of the defendant's phone, what, if anything, were you able to observe or ascertain that the defendant's phone did at approximately 12:36 a.m.?
So by looking at the timeline in the phone, we were able to see that Ms. Reed's phone auto-connected to John O'Keefe's Wi-Fi at his house at 12:36 a.m. We know this because it's a password-protected access to the phone, so you would have to know the password to get into this Wi-Fi network.
And that would be the home in 1 Meadows Avenue, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And, Your Honor, with the court's permission, if we could publish each of the 8 voicemails to the jury.
Okay. Are we going to hear which time each one is?
Yes, Your Honor. And Trooper Guarino, again, similar to the other messages, just for point of reference, the earliest of the voicemails is the last in the list, and the most recent is at the top of the list. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as this first voicemail, what time did this occur?
12:37 a.m.
And with the court's permission, if I could play that for the jury.
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could have the second message. Sorry, Ms. Gilman, if you could pause right there, please.
That's fine.
And before Ms. Gilman presses play again, Trooper Guarino, what time is the second message?
12:42.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. Now, Trooper Guarino, with reference to the third message, what time is that received?
12:59.
And again, when I say received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone, is that correct?
That's the timestamp of the voicemail in his phone, yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could, with reference to that third message.
John, I'm telling you, a fucking kid. Nobody knows what the fuck you are, fucking pervert.
Now, the fourth message, Trooper Guarino, what time was that received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
1:02 a.m.
Ms. Gilman, if you could, when you're ready.
That was it.
So can we just turn the air conditioner off for just a second, please? So you just played it?
Yeah, Your Honor, there was no content. It was just like a 1 second long message.
And Trooper Guarino, with regard to the fifth message, what time was that received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
37, 2, yeah, 1:11 a.m. Excuse me.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could.
Yeah, it's 1 in the morning. I'm with your fucking niece and nephew. You fucking pervert. You're a fucking pervert.
And the sixth message, sir, what time was that received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
1:18 a.m.
Gilman, if you could.
John, I'm going home. I cannot babysit your niece. I need to go home. You are fucking using me right now. You're fucking another girl. He's sleeping next to me. You're a fucking loser. Fuck yourself.
The seventh message, sir, what time was that received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
5:23 a.m.
Gilman, if you could.
John, we're dying.
The last and eighth message, sir, what time was that received by Mr. O'Keefe's phone?
6:08 a.m.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. Gilman, if you could pause there for 1 second, I'm sorry. With respect to this message received on Mr. O'Keefe's phone at 6:08 a.m., from your knowledge of the investigation, where was the defendant, who, if anyone, was with her or around her at the time of this message at 6:08 a.m.?
Jen McCabe, Kerry Roberts. During the message, you can hear someone on the phone with 911.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Gilman, if you could.
Yes, I just want to say, 34 years old, getting out, living in a capitalist life. Yeah. Weird blanket. I will keep blanket very cool.
Thank you, Ms. Newman.
Can we turn the air conditioning back on? Thank you very much.
Now, Trooper Guarino, in addition to the 53 phone calls that you testified about the defendant made to Mr. O'Keefe from that time frame following 12:30 a.m. to approximately just past 6 a.m., did you note any other calls to a contact listed within the defendant's phone as mom?
Yes.
And when were those calls placed?
I believe there's one at 1:10-ish in the morning. I forget the exact timestamp. There's also one at around 4:40 in the morning, and then at 4:42, right around 4 in the morning. Two of them, the first two weren't answered, and then the third phone call was answered.
Now, with respect to Ms. Reed's phone from that same time period, what, if any, phone calls did you observe to a contact listed in the defendant's phone as dad?
It's the same number. So when I looked at it, in one report, it showed as dad, and then when I looked at it in Cellbrite, it came up as mom. So I don't know how it's attributing. Maybe she has it listed twice. I never looked at her actual phone. So this is what the extraction is showing me.
Now, sir, you testified the other day that upon your review of the defendant's extraction reports, you were not able to determine there were no listed GPS locations for the defendant's phone?
Correct. Like routes or anything like that.
And that was because it was turned off in the phone, is that correct?
That would lead me to believe, yes, that location services are turned off, so
Objection, move to strike.
Yep, so no gas. What can you tell us about that?
well, if GPS coordinates and location services on, that's what would get us locations in the phone. So if they're not there, they could be turned off.
Objection, move to strike.
I'll allow
Now, with respect to Mr. O'Keefe's phone, what, if any, analysis with respect to GPS and/or health data? Well, let me ask you this first. From your training experience and your casework with respect to forensic analysis of electronic devices, what is health data in a cell phone? How is that recorded, and what, if anything, can that tell you?
Okay. So in an iPhone, you can have health data. To use that health data, the phone, if you don't have an iWatch paired to it, is basically just a high-tech pedometer. It's just every time you move the phone, it's going to track steps, and that's if you have it turned on. If you have the iWatch on, it'll get beats per minute, and you get a much more robust health data from it.
Now, with respect to the health data and with respect to the GPS location for Mr. O'Keefe's phone, initially, what, if any, sort of analysis did you do with respect to that?
So we checked his native locations. At 12:19, the phone is, well, I should say this, at 12:12 in his location shows that he's at the Waterfall Bar. The next set of locations shows he's at Dedham Street by Cedar Crest, and then Waze is activated for 34 Fairview. So, and then it shows me his entire route to 34 Fairview.
And what is Waze, sir?
Waze is similar to Apple Maps. It is the GPS program that, you know, punch in like a Garmin type thing.
I'd like to take you back just for a moment, just to the health data from the Cellbrite extraction that you did. Specifically, you looked at data from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. on January 29, 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And as far as the health data was concerned, there were some entries from 12:11 a.m. to 12:32 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And can you describe to the jury sort of what you observed and what, if any, significance those entries had to you as far as the health data was concerned?
Yeah, so the health data shows, like I said, the phone is basically a high-tech pedometer. If you're moving it around, it's going to think you're taking steps when you might not actually be walking. His health data showed while he's driving that he's traveling and taking steps.
Objection. Move to strike.
So I need a foundation.
Mr. Guarino, over the course of this investigation, your analysis, you became aware of other witness statements, surveillance video, things of that nature as to Mr. O'Keefe's whereabouts from approximately 12 a.m. to at least 1 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're aware of around the time just past 6 a.m. When his...
So let's hear the question first.
Oh, that's my objection.
Go ahead, Mr. Lowell.
You're aware of the time being just past 6 a.m. that you've already testified to as to when Mr. O'Keefe was discovered and 911 was called.
Yes, that's correct.
So, sir, with respect to, again, that time period starting at 12:11 a.m., what, if anything, did you observe with respect to the health data of Mr. O'Keefe as signified within the phone?
So it marks when he's taking steps, ascending, ascending stairs, and distance traveled.
And so from that period of 12:11 to 12:32, there were essentially 4 time periods that you delineated. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And do you remember the precise times and sort of the distance traveled within those time frames?
I don't remember the precisely off the top of my head.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, may the trooper refer to his report, just those numbers?
Do you have it with you, Trooper?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Okay.
And sir, if you could just list for the jury what you found.
Yes. So at 12:11 and 9 seconds in the morning to 12:21 and 5 seconds on the 29th, it shows that he's taking 170 steps, going 99.6 meters or 326 feet. At Sorry. At 12:21 and 10 seconds to 12:24 and 22 seconds, it shows 80 steps and 87.74 meters, or 287 feet. At 12:21, 14 seconds to 12:24 and 37 seconds, it stated ascending, descending 3 floors. And then at 12:31:56 to 12:32:16 in the morning, 36 steps, 25.46 meters, or 85 feet.
Now, sir, with respect to what's listed as steps, does that indicate, from based on your training experience and familiarity with this sort of health data, what, if anything, does that tell you as to whether or not the person with the phone is physically taking steps?
That's not the case.
What is the case, sir?
Like I said, the phone has internal measures. The phone has internal measures in it. Like I said, it's basically a pedometer. So the movement of the phone, the distance traveled, it's going to register as steps. You don't have to physically be walking and moving the phone for it to register movement. Just waving it around and then could potentially cause it to think you're walking and moving.
You mentioned that from your review of Mr. O'Keefe's phone, you indicated there was a Waze search for 34 Fairview Road. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And if you could just explain to the jury sort of what is Waze and what kind of information are you looking at there?
Waze is a GPS program. So you put your address you're looking to go to. It's going to tell you the fastest route, where the police are, etc.
And when that Waze search was conducted, is there a precise time pursuant to your review of Mr. O'Keefe's phone associated with that Waze search?
Yes, it was at 12:20 in the morning.
And so from all of those steps and everything that you, if Mr. O'Keefe is searching for 34 Fairview Road, inferably he's not at 34 Fairview Road. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, with respect to the location, can you describe to the jury, are you familiar with the term based on your training experience known as native locations?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what that is?
So native locations on an iPhone, the way it pulls GPS data, it uses satellite, Wi-Fi signal, Bluetooth, location services on apps. It takes all that data and uses it to get you the best location of where you are, unlike where you'd have like a handheld car-mounted Garmin GPS that's just using strictly satellite.
Now, from your review of that data, when that Waze search is conducted at approximately 12:20 a.m., where is Mr. O'Keefe physically located at that time?
The vehicle, or whatever they're in, is by 138 Dedham Street. They had already passed Cedar Crest Road.
And from review of that native location data, what time does the phone arrive in the area of 34 Fairview Road?
12:24 a.m.
Now, the next entry as far as the location data, when is that and where is it indicating that the phone is at that point?
It shows me it's there the entire night, right in between 32, 34 Fairview. So,
And 32, 34 Fairview, that sort of intersection of those two residences, if you know, where is that in relation to where Mr. O'Keefe was found just after 6 a.m. in the morning?
I was only going by the photos that Sergeant Good had taken and from the Canton PD cruiser cam, but that area would be within 3 feet, give or take, of the area where the GPS signals all plot for the rest of the night.
Now, Trooper Guarino, you testified the other day to a tool that you use called Axiom, is that correct?
Yes.
And with regard to the location data in the tool of Axiom, what, if anything, can you tell the jury as far as how that works and how accurate it is?
So, like Cellbrite, Axiom will also show the native locations in an iPhone. They're able to display the range of accuracy in meters, and then also the speed of the phone in meters per second. And
were you able to ascertain from using the Axiom tool and the location data for Mr. O'Keefe's phone as far as its speed in meters per second at 12:25:36 a.m.?
I don't remember it off the top of my head. Sorry.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, may the trooper refer to his
Thank you.
report for the numbers?
Go ahead.
It's 0.6346 meters per second and a 16.75 meter lever of accuracy, so at about 54 feet measure of accuracy.
Now, sir, if you could, just based on your training experience and your use, familiarity with this Axiom tool, for the record, that's AXIOM, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So as far as that degree of certainty or accuracy with regard to the measurement, can you speak a little bit about that and explain that to the jury, how that works and what that means?
Yeah. So, as I said, the iPhone tries to use multiple things to get you the best area of location where you're at. I can tell from personal experience that being at 34 Fairview, it's at the bottom, Fairview, where 34 is on Fairview, it's at the bottom of a hill, and it's also at the bottom of Cedar Crest where they sort of intersect. That area there has many hills, so the GPS signal can weaken due to natural landscape, buildings, weather, multiple factors.
And as far as the degree of accuracy, what, if anything, does that tell you in regard to the location of the phone in reference to that degree of accuracy?
So it plots a point where it believes you are, and then the degree of accuracy says you could be in this bubble, but if it's way outside or way far away, it's all going to show by how well the signal strength is to the satellite. So, like I said, if it's a poor signal, it's going to blow out. It's going to show you could be in this giant circle. But as it gets better accuracy, it's going to shrink back down. It's going to say, no, you're right about here.
And to that point, or to elucidate that point that you were just speaking on, we'll get to this more in depth in a second, but at some point in 2023, did you go to 34 Fairview Road to conduct some GPS mapping?
Yes, I did.
And when you were in that area of 34 Fairview Road, what, if anything, did you observe with reference to satellite connection, cell phone connection, things of that nature as far as the strength of the signal?
So on my way to work, I actually drive Fairview quite often, and being there in person with my phone, I'll go from 4 or 5 bars of service. When I'm there, it's 1 or 2. So that tells me that strength of signal there is not great.
Now, turning back to this location data from Mr. O'Keefe's phone, you mentioned that you testified that at 12:25:36 a.m., it has a certain accuracy and it was traveling at a certain speed, correct?
Yes.
Now, what, if any, speed is recorded in this location data between that 12:25 a.m. and 6:15:36 a.m.?
Your Honor, may I just
Yes.
read? Thank you. What time frame exactly are you looking for?
What I'm asking is, what, if any, speed was recorded by the location data between that first 12:25:36 a.m. and 6:15:36 a.m.?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking for before that. No, there's no real speed registered until the phone is found the next morning.
And so that would be at the 6:15:36 a.m. time frame, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what speed is recorded at that time at 6:15:36 in the morning?
It shows 0.24 meters per second for speed, and then with an accuracy rating of 7.58 meters, which is 24 feet.
Thanks. Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to May 8, 2023, where did you go with relation to this investigation on that day?
I went to 34 Fairview.
And who, if anyone, went with you?
Trooper Proctor.
Now, what was the purpose of going to 34 Fairview Road on that date in May of 2023?
We wanted to take measurements of where Officer O'Keefe's body was found, and then basically a diagonal straight line to the door, how the distance that would be.
And what, if any, tools did you bring with you, and what, if anything, did you use in the course of this analysis on this day?
So I loaded in the GPS points into a program that the CERT team uses called SARTOPO. It's a GPS mapping program that you can view through an app. So that way I was able to...
Ugh, when is my allergy spray gonna kick in?
You need Astapro.
Astapro?
It's faster, bro. 8 times faster.
one of the big launch program that the straight line to the door.
Where did you go with relation to this investigation on that day?
I went to 34 Fairview.
And who, if anyone, went with you?
Trooper Proctor.
Now, what was the purpose of going to 34 Fairview Road on that date in May of 2023?
We wanted to take measurements of where Officer O'Keefe's body was found, and then basically a diagonal straight line to the door, how the distance that would be.
And what, if any, tools did you bring with you, and what, if anything, did you use in the course of this analysis on this day?
So I loaded in the GPS points into a program that the CERT team uses called SARTOPO. It's a GPS mapping program that you can view through an app. So that way I was able to see exactly where I was via the app. We also used one of the big long tape measures that's on like the big thing that would get us, from where we believed his body was to the front door.
And from that, as far as the determination of where Mr. O'Keefe's body was located, what, if anything, did you use to determine that?
As I said before, the photos and video from Sergeant Good of KNPD and the KNPD cruiser cam video.
So the cruiser cam video that's from Officer Sarah's cruiser, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
The one that shows where Mr. O'Keefe's body is when Officer Sarah arrives on scene, correct?
That is correct.
Now, with regard to those particular GPS points, what time frame did you start as far as your mapping was concerned?
We took the last, we mapped the entire route. So at the waterfall bar and then on from their drive on Dedham Street down to 34 Fairview.
And as far as these locations, how were they measured as far as what kind of measurements were you using in order to plot those points?
We loaded into Google Maps and just able to show it with a KMZ file to show exactly where he went.
And so what I'm asking is, as far as the GPS locations that you were recording, how were those measured as far as longitude, latitude? Is that how they were measured?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, latitude and longitude.
And you started with Mr. O'Keefe at the Waterfall Bar in Canton. What time was that, if you know?
12 a.m. was the last point.
And then that time frame when Mr. O'Keefe's native locations are putting him in the area of 34 Fairview Roads, when was that first time frame?
The time he arrives?
Yes.
Yeah, about 12:24. I forget the seconds, but 12:24 a.m.
Now, eventually, when you had all of these points as far as the direction of travel, location data, all of those things, what, if anything, were you then able to do with those GPS locations?
I cross-referenced them with his health data and also mapped it out to see exactly where he would be.
Now, with respect to the data that you were able to recover, if you could describe to the jury sort of the path of travel, starting with the waterfall as far as where Mr. O'Keefe's phone was, where it traveled, and where you noted it at various time points along that sequence.
Okay. So, as I said, 12:12, it's at the Waterfall Bar. Then there's a 7-minute break in location data. When the phone comes back up with location data at 12:19, as I said, he's by Dedham Street and Cedar Crest Road. At 138 Dedham Street, right around there, 12:20 a.m., 34 Fairview is put into Waze. He then proceeds down Dedham Street, takes a left onto Oakdale Road. It goes to the end of Oakdale, takes a left onto Maplecroft. As he's going by Maplecroft and Pinecone Road, right around 12:22 and 14 seconds, was a data point listed that he's ascending, descending the stairs. So he's over a half mile away from 34 Fairview at this point. They go down Maplecroft, take a right onto Cedar Crest, all the way down Cedar Crest. They do not turn onto Fairview Road. It goes by Fairview, does a 3-point turn or turns around somehow, and then goes back to Fairview and takes a right, where it finally stops between 34 and 32 Fairview.
So at the time that health data is being recorded, again, you cross-reference the GPS data with the health data from Mr. O'Keefe's phone, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so at the time that the phone has that recording of the health data of descending And is it ascending or descending, or how does that read in the health data?
I have in my report, and that's what's copied from the thing. It's ascending/descending stairs.
And at that point in time, cross-referencing that health data with the GPS location, where physically is Mr. O'Keefe's phone at that particular time frame?
Maplecroft by Pinecone Road, right at that intersection.
And has Mr. O'Keefe's phone arrived or been in the area as far as the GPS, specifically of 34 Fairview Road?
At that time?
Yes.
No, not at all.
And so from the GPS locations that you observed of the defendant's phone, initially the phone passes by Fairview Road and then reverses direction to come back, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then as far as between 12:25 a.m. and 6:15 a.m., there's no movement of that phone, correct?
To the form assisted.
What, if any, movement did you observe following 12:25 a.m. until the period of 6:15 a.m.?
None until it was found at 6:15.
Now, you mentioned that you took a tool and you did some measurements as well, is that correct?
Yes.
And were you able to ascertain then some GPS locations for where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found?
Yes.
And what, if any, measurements, the accuracy of those GPS measurements in latitude and longitude, what was the accuracy of that?
Can I read the exact thing? All right. So from 12:25 and 30 seconds to about 12:35 and 36 seconds, the GPS accuracy is tight on them for the first few seconds and then blows out and encompasses pretty much the neighborhood. 34 Fairview, 32, 31, and I'll read the exact. It's 12:25 and 30 seconds. It has a 33-meter degree of accuracy, which is about 100 feet. That area encompasses 32, 34, and 31 Fairview. 12:25, 31, it's 200-foot measure of accuracy that hits 31, 32, 34 Fairview, basically almost all the houses around. 32 seconds shrinks back down to 95-foot level of accuracy, hitting 32, 34 Fairview and the front yard of 31. At 33 seconds, it's 88 feet, again shrinking back in as the signal gets better, covering 32, 34 Fairview, 72 feet at 34 seconds, 59 feet at 35 seconds, and then 52 feet at 36 seconds. So, as I said, signal weakens, it blows out, and then as the signal gets stronger, it shrinks back in. The GPS coordinates themselves are all still right where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found.
And so as far as, if I can take it back just for a second, the initial GPS coordinates that you marked as far as where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, how accurate was that measurement as far as to itself where it was?
From what we had and then where we marked from, we believe we were in about 3 feet because standing there, even with the app, it's not perfect. I'm not getting a direct saying that I'm right on it. So we believe we were within about 3 feet of exactly where he was found.
And from that air distance of within 3 feet of where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, how far was that, or how far did you measure that to be from the front door of 34 Fairview Road?
In a direct straight line to the front door, 72 feet. Not accounting the stairs.
Now, from your review of that data that you were talking about from that 12:35 and 30 seconds through 12:25 and 36 seconds when it fluctuates, what time period of that is, or what time period of any of the times that you observed is it possible that John O'Keefe was actually anywhere near 34 Fairview Road, the house?
Objection. Ask it differently.
Within those fluctuating circles of GPS data that you were talking about, what time periods did those encompass the actual inside of the residence of 34 Fairview Road?
It's about 3 seconds where it actually encompasses the inside of Fairview. That fourth second, it's right on the edge of the corner of the house. And then the fifth and sixth second, they're just showing the front yard.
in that time period, as far as those GPS data from those circles, with reference to the following time periods after those, what, if any, based on your training experience, what, if any, opinions were you able to draw from sort of that data?
So he would have to go from the GPS point that's listed. It would take him, a second and a half to get to the house, and then a second and a half back where his body was found, where his phone was underneath him. He'd have to go about 48 feet a second when I did a velocity calculation, which is about 32 miles an hour, a second to the house, a second back. There was no GPS points ever showing inside the home, the backyard of the home. There's no lat and long listed. It's just the degree of accuracy from the GPS signal.
So the 72 feet from where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found to the front door of 34 Fairview Road, in order for him to be inside of 34 Fairview Road during any of those measured timeframes, he would have to travel 72 feet and 1.5.
The objection sustained. The objection sustained.
Sir, again, if I could ask you from Mr. O'Keefe's health data, as far as his specific physical location at the time that it indicates ascending and descending, how far away from 34 Fairview Road was it when it registered that?
It's over a half mile away. So Maplecroft to Pinecone Road.
In your opinion, sir, at any point in time from the data that you reviewed, did Mr. O'Keefe enter 34 Fairview Road?
I'll sustain the objection.
May I approach, John?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recognize those, sir?
Yes.
And what do you recognize those to be?
These are the plotted points I did through Google Earth, the maps, and then through LexisNexis, the track system, the GPS range and coordinates.
And the LexisNexis track system, if you could explain just a bit to the jury as far as what that is and how it's used to create these documents before you.
It's similar to that Sartopo program I used. It's a desktop-based GPS program. You put the points in, and then it will map them out and create, like I said, a KMZ file for you, so you can load it into Google Earth.
May I approach, John?
Yes.
I'm off the teaching.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you could enlarge that just a bit. Thank you. Now, Trooper, there should be a laser pointer up on the stand before you. If you could, first of all, let me just ask you, recognize what's up on the screen now as the next exhibit.
Yes.
And again, if you could just explain to the jury sort of what we're looking at in this slide, and then using that laser pointer, if you could, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you have in this particular slide.
So I took an overview of the town of Canton. So this here is the GPS route, and then down over, I can barely see. Let me just look on the map here. It's not much better. The waterfall bar is right up, I can't really tell, honestly, from this, but it's on Washington Street. It's down here, I'm sorry. That's why I included an overview of everything so you could see the full range from the time period with that GPS locations.
All right, if I may, just if it's possible, I don't know.
Keep your voice up.
I'm sorry. I don't know if this is going to work any better, but if I could ask if we could turn the lights back on just so the witness can see
Sure.
what's before him, and then. With the court's permission, I think the map is still viewable to the jury, and now the witness can actually see the exhibit.
Can everybody see it?
And so again, sir, Trooper, I'm sorry. Now with visible before you, if you could just indicate again what we're looking at in this.
Yep. So when you zoomed in, it actually closed it out. But it's down over here is the waterfall bar. There's a couple of points there listed. And then right around here is when the GPS tracks go, and their route, once Waze is activated, down to 34 Fairview. There is a zoomed in version of 5 Fairview.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide.
So
What are we looking at in this slide?
Yep. So this is the track. This one shows the 12:22 and 14 second GPS point where right here where the little arrow is. That's exactly where they were when the phone is registering the ascending, descending stairs, like listed in Cellbrite.
If you could, using that laser pointer to illustrate to the jury where that point is in relation to where 34 Fairview Road is.
Yes. So this is where they were with the ascending, descending stairs. They would continue down through this little piece here, take the right onto Cedar Crest. They continue down Cedar Crest, missing Fairview right here, and then turn back around and then come to the house.
And this gentleman, if I could have the next slide. And Trooper, what are we looking at in this slide? Specifically, if you could explain to the jury as far as the blue circle with the attached to the
If you could look this way, please.
attached to the LexisNexis tracks, if you could explain to the jury what that is and what that signifies in this.
Yeah, so as I said, we loaded this in through LexisNexis, and it gave us the GPS points for the route. The point is 348. I just want to double check. Yeah, point 348 is at 12:25 and 30 seconds. The blue circle is the estimated range, so how well the signal for the GPS is. And 34 Fairview is right pretty much by that L.
Gentlemen, if I could have the next slide.
Yeah, there we go.
Trooper, is this essentially the same image, a little bit closer without the graphic as far as the LexisNexis?
That's correct. Yeah, this is 34 Fairview right here, 32, and then again, this is where all the points are for the duration.
As far as the blue circle that's up on the screen, what does that represent as far as this particular point in time for this GPS point 348 at 12:25 and 30 seconds?
Yes, this is as I said before, the range of accuracy due to satellite strength. So, as I said, it blows out as it loses strength, and then will come back in as it gets better signal.
Gentlemen, if I could have the next slide. Again, Trooper, what's up on the screen? What are we looking at this as far as 12:25:31?
Same area where 348 is. This is part 351. Again, as you can see, strength of signal blows out and encompasses almost the whole neighborhood. All the houses around.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. Again, sir, is this the same GPS point of 351, number 351 at 12:25 and 31 seconds?
Yes, it is.
And if you could, again, just explain to the jury what we're looking at in this slide.
Same thing, just the degree of accuracy and the strength of the satellite signal to Officer O'Keefe's phone.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. And again, sir, if you could explain to the jury what we're looking at in this slide and what time frame we're talking about.
Yep, this is point 349 at 32 seconds. Again, latitude and longitude, they're all right in the same area, and that's that.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. Again, Trooper Guarino, is this the same GPS plotting point in the same time frame of 12:25, 32 seconds?
Yes, it is.
And again, if you could explain to the jury what we're looking at in this, in particular in relation to the earlier slides with reference to the accuracy that you talked about.
Yeah. So again, the accuracy blew out as it lost signal, and now it's shrinking back in as accuracy gets better.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. And sir, what GPS point or what time frame are we looking at in this particular slide?
It's 12:25 and 33 seconds. Again, same area, lat long, right in the yard of 34 Fairview.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. Trooper Guarino, is this the same GPS point of number 348 and 12:25 and 33 seconds?
That's correct.
And again, if you could explain to the jury as far as the accuracy and what we're looking at in this.
Yep. So I believe they actually wasn't that much of a drop off, yeah. So it went from 88 feet to 72 feet. So the circle still doesn't look like it really shrank much.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide, please. And again, Trooper, what time frame and what GPS point are we looking at in this one?
This is 12:25 and 34 seconds. Again, same thing right there, the corner of 34 Fairview and 32 Fairview.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide, please. Trooper Guarino, this is the same GPS point number 315, 12:25 and 34 seconds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And again, using, if you could, using that laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to what we're looking at in this.
Yeah. So 34 Fairview's here. So as I said, this point here is the last one where it sort of cuts out the little corner of the house, but everything's still showing directly. This is where it's believed to be.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. What GPS point and what time are we looking at in this one, sir?
This one's 35 seconds, 12:25, 35 seconds. Same thing again. GPS point's still saying it's right there where his body was, but again, it dropped from 72 feet of accuracy down to 59 feet. So it's going to show the outside only of the house.
So the signal strength is strengthening at that point, is that correct?
That is correct.
If I could have the next slide, Ms. Gilman. And again, sir, same GPS pointer number 346, and same time at 12:25, 35, is that correct?
That's correct.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. Mr. Guarino, with regard to this slide, what GPS point is being depicted and what time frame are we looking at?
This is GPS point number 345, and it's 12:25 and 36 seconds. Again, showing that the signal strength has, again, grown and gotten better.
As far as growing and gotten better, what accuracy or what degree of accuracy in feet are we looking at?
This is within 52 feet.
Ms. Gilman, lastly, from this group, the next slide. And again, sir, this is the same as the previous slide, GPS point number 345, 12:25 and 36 seconds.
That's correct.
And again, if you could, using the laser pointer, just illustrate to the jury what we're looking at.
Yep. As I said, there's any plotted points anywhere other than right in this area for the rest of the night. This is where it stays, and there's varying degrees of accuracy, but there's nothing ever showing it anywhere else in that neighborhood.
May I approach, John?
Yes.
Yep.
You recognize that, sir?
Yes, this is a second map I created with the Cellbrite locations from their native locations. The previous one was from Axiom. So I used both programs to map it.
Why did you use both programs, sir?
As I said, Axiom showed movement and degree of accuracy where Cellbrite doesn't. It just gives you the native locations. I used two programs so I can corroborate what I'm seeing in one is the same as the other, because if not, then I need to find out why.
And as far as the information from one program to the other program, were they corroborative of each other?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to seek to introduce and admit the next exhibit. No objection.
Okay. The lights on still?
I think so. I think
Okay.
so. Thank you, Your Honor. Trooper Guarino, starting with the first page that you have before you, first of all, do you recognize what's up on the screen as the first page of that next exhibit?
Yes, sir.
And again, if you could, using the laser pointer you have before you, direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you observe in this first page of this next exhibit.
Yes, so again, this is from the Waze app. They're tracked from 34 to 34 Fairview down Cedar Crest, again, returning back here. So that's just the bottom half. I just wanted to get a closer view of where the GPS plots were from Cellbrite.
And the next slide is going. And again, sir, if you could explain to the jury what we're looking at in this particular slide.
So the purple dots are the GPS points and the route taken. As I said, goes up to, I believe that's 51 Cedar Crest, and then reverses back. And then this is the final point. It's right here. And 34 Fairview is right here. There's a little yellow push pin on it.
And again, sir, I'm sorry, just from the timing of the plotting of the points of purple dots that you have there, if you could just, using the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to the path that Mr. O'Keefe's phone takes in reference. If I could ask you first, if you could just illustrate to the jury this particular line, where is 34 Fairview?
Right here.
And then if I could ask you with the laser pointer to direct the jury's attention to the path of Mr. O'Keefe's phone in sequence, sort of how it travels and arrives at that location.
Yep. As I shown, goes down Cedar Crest, misses Fairview, goes up to here by the house with the pool, turns around, goes back, takes a right onto Fairview, and then stops ultimately right in between 34 and 32 Fairview, where there's like a flagpole and a fire hydrant right there.
Tell me if I could have the next slide. And Trooper Guarino, direct your attention to this slide. What are we looking at?
Again, I cross-referenced it with the points. This is Pine Cone Road, and then Maplecroft intersects here. And this is the ascending, descending stairs point in his phone. Doing a Google Earth elevation check. There's about a 20-degree dip, and then it goes up. And then as you go down Cedar Crest, the hill is about 50-foot elevation change again. So it's pretty significant.
And so I'm sorry, sir, as far as the elevation change that you're talking about, how is that measured and how and where is that in reference to what's depicted up here?
So again, like I said, in this area here, there's about a 20-foot drop, and then as you go down Cedar Crest, that hill, it's about 50 feet. This spot here is the ascending, descending stairs. So as I said before, he doesn't have an iWatch on, so it's not collecting that great health data. It's still acting as a pedometer. So again, whatever movement he's doing is triggering something in the phone as he's ascending and descending these hills. Essentially, it could be tricking the phone into thinking it's stairs.
Mr. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. Is Trooper Guarino, what are we looking at in this one?
This timestamp is 12:19 32 seconds. That's when the phone initially starts creating the GPS points before Waze is activated with 34 Fairview searched. So this looks to be the time Waze is actually opened up.
And so from the purple dots that are depicted on the screen, as far as where is Mr. O'Keefe's phone at 12:19 a.m. in reference to 34 Fairview?
12:19 is right here. 34 Fairview is down all the way here. Number, you can't really see, but it's right in the bottom corner.
And the next slide, Mr. Gilman.
This is the same map, but just minus the tracks. Graphic.
I'm sorry, Trooper, I lost track of what page we're on. Are there any other pages in that exhibit for you?
No, that's the last one.
May I approach this to retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Okay. Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Giannetti?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Lally, you left your material here.
Thank you, sir.
Trooper Guarino, you've testified that you disagree in many respects with the findings of the defense expert, Rick Green, which he outlined in his affidavit submitted in connection with this case, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I'd like to ask you some questions about your training and education and your qualifications in the area of computer forensics. You graduated from Westfield State University in 2003.
Yes, that's correct.
You majored in criminal justice and mass communications, correct?
Yes, I double majored.
You chose not to major in computer science, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
2 years after graduating, you became a patrolman in Norwood, correct?
Yes, that's right.
The town of Norwood is right next to Canton, is it not?
Yes, it is.
You stayed as a patrolman in Norwood for 10 years with the Norwood Police Department, correct?
Minus a stint in the National Guard, but yes.
You then became a Massachusetts state trooper in 2015,
Yes, I did.
and you spent 4 years in the patrol division of the Mass State Police, correct?
Yes, I did.
And that was until 2019?
Correct.
And 2019 was the first time that you took a forensic computer course. Would you agree with that?
No, that's not true.
Would you agree with me that since then, your training has mainly consisted of online courses and webinars?
That is also not true.
Okay, well, you list, with regard to your training, some in-person trainings, sir, but you list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, actually, over 20 online courses, do you not?
Yes, that was during COVID.
Yeah. Well, 2019 was not during COVID, was it?
2020 was
All right.
when I took most of them.
I got you, but you say 2019 to 2020 in terms of your online courses and webinars, correct?
There's quite a few, yes.
All right. And with regard to some of the courses that you were taking during that time period, would you agree with me that one of them was Introduction to Computer Networks?
So that course was through the NW3C.
I didn't ask you where it was from. I asked you whether one of the courses that you took was called Introduction to Computer Networks.
That's correct.
And another course that you took was Introduction to Cell Phone Investigations, correct?
Yes.
Introduction to Previewing, correct?
Yes.
You hold no degrees in the field of computer forensics, do you?
I hold certifications.
You hold no degrees in the field of computer forensics or computer science, correct?
Like college degree?
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
You have no publications in the field of computer forensics, do you?
No, not yet.
And you've never taught a course in computer forensics, have you?
No.
All right. Well, as a Norwood police officer for 10 years and a Massachusetts state trooper for 9 years, you would agree that you've written a lot of police reports over the years, have you not?
Yeah, you could say that.
Prior to becoming a Norwood police officer back in 2005, you attended a police academy, right?
Yes, I did.
And at the academy, one area of focus was the proper way to write a police report, was it not?
Amongst others.
You were taught that it's important to write police reports close in time to the events in question while they're still freshest in your memory, correct?
That's not necessarily the case.
Okay, so is it your testimony before this jury that it's preferable to wait months before you submit a police report on something that happened months ago, sir?
Well, it depends on the data that I'm using. If I can't get into a phone, then yeah, I have to wait months.
Okay. But once the information is received that you need to write a police report, would you agree with me that it's important to record it in a report as soon as you can?
No, I stand by my previous statement that as soon as the data is available that I can do it, I will. And if, things come up, then, I do it when it's able.
So I think you just answered my question. You said as soon as the data is available and you've completed your investigation.
I never said I completed. I said if the data is available.
Well,
then
let's say you've completed your investigation, sir. Are you going to argue with me that it's preferable not to wait to record that data in a report?
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Yannetti.
You were also taught that it's important to include all the important details in your police report, correct?
Again, it depends on the report I'm writing.
Okay, so in other words, there are times when you're writing a police report when you intentionally leave out important details, Trooper. Is that your testimony before this jury?
Objection.
I'll allow that question. Is that what you do, Trooper?
No, ma'am,
Okay.
Your Honor.
So you would agree with me, going back to my question, that it is important to include all the important details in your report, is it not?
Again, it depends on the report that I'm writing. There's some data that goes in, there's some that doesn't. I can't have everything in. Again, for phone, I'm speaking to technically phone reports or cell phones, computers. I can't include everything. That's why we have the program that if I need to add something via Cellbrite or Axiom, I can create a report through that. If I did a handwritten report for everything, they'd be thousands of pages for the amount of data in these devices.
One purpose of writing a police report is to share information with your fellow investigators, is it not?
I suppose so.
Another purpose of writing a police report is to be fair to the people that you're investigating by explaining as best you can what happened, correct?
I don't understand that question.
Okay. The fact is you did write some early police reports in this case dated February 4th, 2022, just 6 days after John O'Keefe was found mortally wounded on Brian Albert's front lawn, correct?
That is correct.
When you wrote those police reports, you knew this was a homicide investigation, correct?
I was told that it was believed to be yes.
So that underscored the importance of being accurate and truthful, correct? Especially in a homicide investigation?
I write my reports, no matter what the investigation is, the same exact way.
And the purpose of one of your February 4th, 2022 reports was to explain how you came into possession of John O'Keefe's cell phone and to note the extraction that you did on the phone. Do you recall that report?
Yes, I do.
And before writing that particular report, you spoke with Trooper Michael Proctor, did you not?
I received the phone from him, but
I'm sorry?
I received the phone from him originally, yes.
And when you received the phone, the two of you did not remain mute, right? The two of you chatted,
I don't remember the exact conversation.
but there was a conversation, correct?
I'm sure there was.
And you recorded what Michael Proctor told you about that cell phone in your February 4th, 2022 report, did you not?
No, I didn't.
Michael Proctor told you that on Saturday, January 29th of 2022, he and Sergeant Buchanan had responded to 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Did he not?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No, he didn't.
Well, you wrote in your very first sentence in that report the following, quote, on Saturday, January 29th, 2022, Trooper Michael Proctor and Sergeant Yuri Buchanan of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office responded to the unattended death of John O'Keefe at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Those were your words, were they not?
All right, so the objection sustained. You can ask it differently.
Did Michael Proctor tell you that he had received or retrieved John O'Keefe's cell phone from 34 Fairview Road in Canton?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
No, I didn't know where it was retrieved from.
You didn't know where it was retrieved from?
Correct.
All right. But you did include in your report that while Proctor and Buchanan were on scene, they retrieved the cell phone of John O'Keefe, correct?
At some point during the day, they did. I don't know where from. So there's multiple.
Yeah, I'm asking about your report, Trooper. You know I'm questioning you about your report.
No, I understand, and I'm explaining. I don't know what scene
You don't
it's
get to explain, sir, most respectfully, until Mr. Lally questions you.
Okay, so no comments. I think to speed things along, do you have your report with you?
I do, Your Honor.
I think it'll make it easier, Ms.
Can you read the
Giannetti.
first two lines of that?
Let him grab it.
Go.
Can you read the first two lines to the jury, please?
Yep. On Saturday, January 29th, 2022, Trooper Michael Proctor and Sergeant Yuri Buchanan of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office responded to the unattended death of John O'Keefe at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Through his investigation was found O'Keefe was a victim of a motor vehicle homicide. While on scene, Trooper Proctor secured O'Keefe's phone and brought it to the Norfolk DA's office for forensic analysis.
Okay. So you'd agree with me that you included that clause. While on scene, they secured his phone. Did you not?
I did write that.
Okay. And that was back on February 4th of 2022, correct?
Yes, it was.
Within 6 days of John O'Keefe being found mortally wounded on Albert's lawn, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at that time, you knew that the crime scene was 34 Fairview Road, correct?
No.
Yet you put in your report while on scene. Did you not?
Yes, I don't know what scene they recovered from. I know they went multiple places on the 29th. They didn't get back to me till 7:30 that night almost, when I first got the phone.
Well, you'd agree with me that the Canton Police Department wasn't the crime scene, correct?
I never said crime scene in my report. I wrote scene.
Okay. Well, Canton Police Department was not the scene of any crime, was it?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
You don't know if the Canton Police Department was the scene of a crime.
I don't think it was.
You don't think it was? Okay. Now, in that report, you were trying to establish the chain of custody of that phone, right? Because you described where it was found, where it was taken, and who had possession of it, correct?
I said it never said where it was taken. I said the phone was recovered on scene by Trooper Proctor. Again, I don't know where it was recovered from. I did find out later it was at Canton PD.
Well, hold on a second. We're focusing on your report.
I know, I'm reading it.
As opposed to details you want to fill in now, okay?
Okay.
With regard to, you just testified that you never said where it was taken, yet previously you said it was taken to you, was it not?
No, I said recovered from, like the scene location.
Did Trooper Proctor take the phone to you and
Yes.
hand it to you?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so it was taken to you, correct?
That is correct.
All right. So you described in your report where it was found because you said while on scene, correct?
Correct.
And where it was taken to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And who had possession of it, which was initially Trooper Proctor in terms of your observations, and then you, correct?
That is who brought me the phone to the DA's office, yes.
And you would agree with me that chain of custody of a piece of evidence is an important detail in any criminal investigation, isn't it?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that someone reading your report or listening to it as the jury listened today would understand you to be saying that Michael Proctor seized John O'Keefe's cell phone at 34 Road in Canton?
Objection.
Sustained.
All right. I'd like to ask you some questions about the extraction that you discussed in that same February 4th, 2022 report, the very same report. In that report, after you name the tools that you used to extract data from the phone, you indicated that a copy of that cell phone extraction was placed on a state police server, or was it a DA's office server?
DA's office server.
Okay, on a server so that it could be accessed there, correct?
That is correct.
But that extraction you placed on the server did not include all the potential data on John O'Keefe's phone, did it?
How do you mean?
Well, didn't you indicate in your report that the extraction was not inclusive of all potential data contained within the device?
No, that's not true.
Well, the extraction that you did contained communications, iOS messages, phone calls, social media communications between John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And it contained communications between John O'Keefe and Jennifer McCabe?
Yes, that's true.
It contained communications between John O'Keefe and Kerry Roberts?
I can't recall.
All right. But it did not include any communications between John O'Keefe and Julie Albert, did it?
Again, I can't recall.
And again, I'm talking about that initial extraction. That initial one didn't include any communications between John O'Keefe and Chris Albert, did it?
I only created one extraction of John O'Keefe's phone.
All right.
I was born in Farmington, New Mexico, and learned to fish here.
Didn't note any location data.
No, it did.
Not include any. That extraction report also did not include any location data, did it?
No, it did.
Between John O'Keefe and Chris Albert, did it?
I only created one extraction of John O'Keefe's phone.
All right. That extraction report also did not include any location data, did it?
No, it did.
You didn't note any location data in that initial report, did you?
In the February 4th report?
Correct.
I didn't go through the data at that point.
All right.
This is just my extraction report saying that I got the phone, it was extracted and placed onto the server. And then I wrote, this report is not inclusive of all potential evidence, potential data contained within this evidence.
When was the first time that you reported on location data in this case?
I don't remember.
Wasn't until April of 2023, correct?
There was a reason for that.
Well, I didn't ask you if there was a reason for it, sir. You understood my question, didn't you?
That's correct. My first report regarding was in January.
We're talking about John O'Keefe's phone now here.
Yeah.
You did not report on the location data on John O'Keefe's phone until April of 2023, correct?
I didn't look at the extraction initially.
And you also did not report on any Apple Health data until the spring of 2023, correct?
Again, I didn't look at the phone extraction. Trooper Proctor would have looked at it. I would have loaded it and given it to him.
Okay, so Trooper Proctor had access to the phone first, and then you took care of it, correct?
He had access to the extraction that I would load onto Cellbrite for him to look at, where you can't change the data. That is correct.
Okay. And you would agree with me that you didn't address John O'Keefe's health or location data in any formal report until that April 23 report, correct?
That is correct. I never went through it.
Right, and you submitted your report in April of 2023 after you became aware of an affidavit filed by the defense expert, Rick Green, in which Mr. Green extracted and analyzed John O'Keefe's location data and his movements according to Apple Health data. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Before Rick Green submitted that affidavit, no member of the state police homicide investigation team, including you, had ever looked at or at least reported on the location data for anyone present at 34 Fairview, correct?
For the devices that we had, sir?
For John O'Keefe's device, for Jennifer McCabe's device, etc.
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
All right, but you didn't, correct?
Again, I didn't look at the extractions until later.
Right. So you hadn't looked at John O'Keefe's location data in particular prior to Richard Green pointing out the location data in his affidavit, correct?
Again, I don't know. I wasn't asked to look for that data when I did look at
On
it.
it, correct?
Yes, there's no report until then.
Right. Same with Jennifer McCabe's location data. You didn't report on that either, correct?
I didn't look at Jen McCabe's phone.
You didn't report on Brian Alberts or Colin Alberts or Brian Higgins' location data. Would you agree with that?
I didn't have any of their phone extractions to get that data, so I wouldn't be able to anyways.
But when you finally did check the location data, I want to ask you about your testimony on direct examination that you believe that at a certain point with regard to John O'Keefe's phone, the accuracy of the GPS points was within 3 feet. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you show me where in any of your reports you specify that the GPS points are accurate within 3 feet?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. In my reports or the accident report?
Yeah, no, any reports that you have in front of you or any that you reviewed, where is that?
What do you, that I wrote
Is
that?
it in writing anywhere, sir?
Yes, I wrote in my report that we believe we were within 3 feet of the latitude and longitude points that were mapped in Sartopo when we went to
Which
scene.
report is that?
That is the second report that I did, sir.
The May of 2023 report?
May 9th, 2023.
All right. Now, let me just have a moment.
Yep. It's page. It'll be page 4 or 5. It should be in the top there. Paragraph 9. Can read it if you'd like.
Hang on. Would you agree with me in paragraph 9, there is nothing that mentions that the accuracy is within 3 feet?
From the program?
No, I'm asking you about a report that you authored, that you just mentioned to this jury.
It's in paragraph 12, I'm sorry. It says, Trooper Proctor and I began to measure.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I wrote, Trooper Proctor and I began measuring the approximate
I'm not
location.
asking you to read it.
Oh, okay.
You're mentioning paragraph 12 and
Yes, sir.
you're talking about one particular spot in that, correct?
Yes, that is the spot that we
All right.
pointed on our
Now, with
location.
regard to John O'Keefe's phone, would you agree with me that it's important to properly handle and secure a cell phone that is seized in connection with a homicide investigation?
Yes.
Was it important in this investigation to properly handle and secure John O'Keefe's cell phone since he was the homicide victim?
I mean, it was. We locked it in a secure evidence lab.
All right. Well, you testified that the first time you reported on in your investigation or your evaluation of the location data, that was in your April 24th, 2023 report, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in that report, you revealed that you looked at his location data using Axiom software, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Axiom is a competitor of Celebrite?
Did you say that? Yeah.
And Axiom is relied on by law enforcement across the country?
I believe so.
And you relied on it here in terms of this issue of the location data, did you not?
I use multiple programs, but yes, I use Axiom as well.
And regarding the location data that you examined with regard to John O'Keefe's phone, you noticed, or you noted, I should say, that after a period of no speed having been registered for a period of time, John O'Keefe's cell phone started registering movement at 6:04 or 6:15 a.m.?
6:15 a.m.
6:15 a.m., and that's actually 6:15 and 36 seconds, correct?
I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that's correct.
Sounds right?
Yeah.
And at that point, his phone registered a speed of 0.0484 meters per second?
Just want to confirm.
Sure.
Is that the second report or the first report? I'm sorry. There it is. Yep. 0.0484.
0.0484 meters per second?
Yes.
And that's at 6:15 and 36 seconds?
Yes, it is.
All right. So now, as you were examining that data, sir, you certainly knew from this investigation by that point that when the phone was moving according to that data at 6:15 and 36 seconds on January 29th of 2022, John O'Keefe had already been found mortally wounded and incapacitated, correct?
From the voicemail message, that's how I was able to. I don't know the exact time frames that he was found and transported, but I know 6:08 from Miss Reed's voicemail that the 911 call is made, and
Okay,
they are on scene.
I think we're talking over each other here,
Yeah.
because what I'm asking is, you knew that by 6:15 and 30 seconds in the morning on January 29th, John O'Keefe had already been incapacitated and mortally wounded. That was my question.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay.
I misunderstood.
So you knew from your investigation that meant it could not have been John O'Keefe moving with his phone at 6:15 and 36 seconds, correct?
That is correct.
It had to be somebody else, correct?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that once investigators took possession of John O'Keefe's phone, any movement of his phone after that would not help in your homicide investigation, would it?
I don't understand.
So in other words, John O'Keefe's been incapacitated.
Yes.
Somebody from law enforcement seizes his phone. Would it help your investigation or the investigation of the Norfolk Detectives Unit to track and record location data on that phone after 6:15 a.m.?
Well, it's there. I did look at it. It goes to Canton PD and then later comes to the office.
I didn't ask if it's there. I know it's there. I'm asking you, does that help you in your investigation of a potential, of a homicide, to track the phone and have that location data recorded on the phone after John O'Keefe could not have been the one moving with it?
No, not necessarily.
In fact, if the phone is manipulated in some way after investigators take possession of it, that could potentially harm an investigation, couldn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, to preserve the integrity of the data on the phone as it existed before the police took custody of the phone, there is a way to stop the phone from recording location data, again, after the police take custody of the phone, isn't there?
Yes, if you can, place it into airplane mode.
Yes, yeah, you mentioned on direct examination that it could be accomplished by putting the phone into airplane mode, correct?
That is correct, sir.
But when that phone was seized, no investigator put the plane into airplane mode that early morning because you know that location data was found on that phone, correct?
I don't know when it was placed in airplane mode,
But you know it wasn't by 6:15 a.m., correct?
that is correct.
All right. And there's also another way to prevent any signal from entering or exiting the phone. You'd agree with that?
Yes, there is.
During your direct examination, you mentioned the concept of a Faraday bag.
That is correct, sir.
A Faraday bag has special fabric that blocks electromagnetic signals entirely, does it not?
Yes, sir.
So putting the phone into a Faraday bag would be another way to stop the phone from recording location data while the phone's in police custody, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you'd agree with me that during that early morning hours, as of 6:15 a.m. and thereafter, no investigator in this case put that phone into a Faraday bag on January 29th, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
In fact, after John O'Keefe's cell phone started registering movement at 6:15 and 36 seconds in the morning on January 29th, it continued to record location data the rest of the morning until 11:56 and 1 second a.m. on January 29th, correct?
I don't know the exact end time, but I know it does have GPS data points throughout the day.
So you would agree with me that for several hours after the police had the phone, it was not put in a Faraday bag and it was not put into airplane mode, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now, with regard to the voicemails that you've previously testified to and that the jury has heard and they've been introduced into evidence, you had testified on direct examination that Karen Reed's phone connected to the Wi-Fi at 1 Meadows Ave at approximately 12:36 in the morning.
Yes, sir.
So you can testify based on that by 12:36 in the morning, Karen Reed was not at 34 Fairview, correct?
That's correct.
And that was the first of those voicemails that you testified to, correct? That was the I hate you voicemail?
Yes, that's 12:37, correct.
Okay. And that voicemail and every other voicemail that the jury heard was left after Karen had left 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes, sir.
And except for the one at, after 6 in the morning, the 4-minute one when she went back, we heard that one. But all the other ones were apparently left when she was at 1 Meadows, correct?
I can't speak to where she was, but
But she wasn't at 34 Fairview.
yes, that's correct. She wasn't at 34.
And you would agree with me, based on those voicemails and what you know about them and what we've just discussed, that no one at 34 Fairview, including Jennifer McCabe, could have witnessed Karen Reed outside that residence at 12:45 a.m., correct?
No, I don't believe so.
So you would agree with me? No one could have, including Jennifer McCabe, could have seen her at 12:45 at 34 Fairview?
As I said, she auto connects to the Wi-Fi at 12:36, so no, she wouldn't have been there.
All right. Now, we've talked about the findings of, or the fact that you reviewed the findings of Rick Green by reading the affidavit that he submitted, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you learned in that affidavit that Rick Green was able to track not only when John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview, but also the route that he and Ms. Reed took to get there on January 29th, correct?
I don't recall his report fully, but
you learned that he was able to accomplish that by examining the data from the app Waze that you spoke of, correct?
yes, I did find that myself.
All right. And Waze is spelled W-A-Z-E, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you've previously testified it's a commonly used app for driving directions and navigation.
Yes, sir.
And regarding your analysis of the phone, you learned that there was Apple Health data from John O'Keefe's phone on January 29th of 2022, correct?
That is correct.
And Apple Health data can reveal a number of steps that a person has taken during a given time period, as well as whether that person is going up or down stairs, correct?
Yes.
And on John O'Keefe's phone, you learned that there was Apple Health data that tracked his steps from the time he's seen on surveillance video leaving the Waterfall Bar and Grill and moving forward after that, correct?
I don't know anything about the Waterfall Bar video. I just have the timestamp from the phone showing it at around 12:12 at the Waterfall.
All right, and it actually was between 12:11 and 9 seconds, and then the ending period of that first time period was 12:21 and 5 seconds. And then you.
Oh yes, from the health. Thank you. Yes, yeah.
Okay, from the Apple Health. And the data showed that he took a total of 170 steps between that time period, correct?
That's what the phone registered. Yes.
All right. And regarding those 170 steps, isn't it true that this data from Apple Health signifies that 170 steps took place at some point during that 10-minute approximate time period?
No.
So is it your understanding that those 170 steps all took place at 12:11?
No. Again, like I said, the phone is a high-tech pedometer. It doesn't mean that steps were taken. It means the phone was manipulated in a way that it believed it was moving and taking steps.
Oh, I see your objection.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sorry.
Yeah, let's assume there were steps for the purpose of this discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, and they could have been steps, correct?
They could have been, yes, but
All right. So let's assume
no way to prove
let's
it.
assume that for now.
Okay.
Assuming there were 170 steps taken, that could have meant that John O'Keefe took 170 steps beginning at 12:11 within that time period, correct?
It's saying again, the time frame that it gave me is 12:11 to 12:21.
Right. Yeah. So in other words, he could have started walking at 12:11, correct?
Yes.
All right. But he also could have taken that 170 steps closer in time to 12:21, correct?
Well, at that point, he's in the car.
I'm not asking about where he was.
Could not have been. No.
I'm just asking about with what the data shows.
And I would say no.
If it shows 170 steps between 12:11 and 12:21, then strictly based on the data, you don't know where those 170 steps took place within that 10 minutes, correct?
To a degree, yes.
Okay. And it's possible it could have been toward the beginning, toward the end, or maybe fairly evenly spaced, right? You just know that there were 170 steps that were taken in that 10-minute time frame, correct?
Again, that's assuming that they are steps.
Right. And again, I'm asking you from the data itself.
Again, the phone says it's steps, doesn't mean they are.
All right. Well, the Apple Health data also showed a total of 80 steps between 12:21 and 12:24.
Correct.
As part of your investigation of this case, were you aware that there was a 12:23 text message from Ryan Nagel to Julie Nagel in which Ryan texted his sister Julie he had arrived at 34 Fairview?
Objection.
Sustained, you can ask it differently.
In any case, you would agree with me that 12:23 is between 12:21 and 12:24, correct?
That is correct.
And that is the 12:21 to 12:24 time frame where the Apple Health data showed that the user of John O'Keefe's phone took 80 steps, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, John O'Keefe's Apple Health data also showed that he climbed up or down 3 flights of stairs between 12:21 and 12:24, correct?
Yes.
And that's the same period in which the data reflects 80 steps, correct?
It's off by about 12 seconds. 12:22, 22. Sorry, 12:24 and 22 seconds was the ending for the stamps, but 12:24 and 37 seconds.
Okay, but approximately.
Yeah. Approximately, yes.
All right. And regarding going up and down those 3 floors, Apple does not provide data precise enough to determine when within that range the 3 floors were transverse, correct?
No. There was a second point at 12:22 and 14 seconds that had specifically on stairs.
Okay. And you would agree with me that, and again, assuming that they were stairs as Apple Health data reflects, those stairs could have been ascended or descended toward the beginning, toward the end, or throughout that 3-minute time period, correct?
In this case, no, because there's a set point that's in the Cellbrite report that shows it's 12:22 and 14 seconds.
All right. Finally, his Apple Health data also showed a total of 36 steps between 12:31:56 and 12:32:16, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. So I would like to direct your attention to your May 9th, 2023 report, which was the second report that you wrote that we've already referenced.
Yes, sir.
Specifically paragraph 15.
Okay.
You wrote that O'Keefe's health data in Celebrite shows him ascending, descending 3 flights of stairs at 12:22 and 14 seconds. Did I read that accurately?
Yes, sir.
And the native locations in Celebrite and the cached locations in Axiom both show O'Keefe's phone location by the intersection of Oakdale Road and Pinecone Road, which is in front of 36 Oakdale, and which is approximately a little over a half mile from 34 Fairview. Did I read that essentially correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you stand by the statement that he ascended and descended 3 flights of stairs precisely at 12:22 and 14 seconds?
I'm going by what Celebrite has given me from that time point, and that's what I used.
Isn't it true that what the Apple Health data actually state is that John O'Keefe's phone went up and down 3 flights of stairs sometime within the time period that began at 12:22:14 and ended at 12:24:37?
I can't speak to it. I don't know. This is what, again, I'm looking at the report. This is what the information that is parsed out of the phone is giving me.
Right. I'm just asking about the data itself. It gives you that time period and tells you 3 flights of stairs, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Assuming that those 3 flights of stairs were ascended or descended closer in time to 12:22:14, which was within that time period, that would still give him time to arrive at 34 Fairview within a couple minutes later, would it not?
I'm sorry, the time?
Yeah, so we have a time period that you've agreed with, which is 12:24:14, ending at 12:24:37, right? A little over a couple of minutes, like 2 minutes and 23 seconds?
Yeah, about that.
All right. So the 3 flights of stairs, again, just according to the data, could have been ascended or descended at the start of that time period, correct?
No. I'm confused what you're trying to say. So you're saying that he's at the house already at 12:22?
I'm not asking about the house. I'm asking about the data.
No, I know, but I'm asking about when you're saying he arrives in that data range.
No, what I'm
confused.
I'm strictly asking you just to look at the data.
Yeah.
And you agree with me, whenever there's a time period and Apple Health returns either steps or stairs, you can't pinpoint just from the data when they occurred within that time period, correct?
Objection. Your Honor, may be helpful if counsel could refer to which data he's talking about and not just keep saying.
I'm
All I'm hearing is
Apple Health
data.
I thought that was
Do you know
clear.
which data Ms. Gianetti's referring to specifically?
I'm slightly confused. I know you said that time frame that I wrote in my report for that 12:21 to 12:24, and then, as I stated before, Celebrate shows a specific time point of 12:22 and 14 seconds when the stairs are ascended, descended. So that's why I'm confused.
Right, we're going to get to that, but
Okay.
I'm not asking you about that. I'm asking you about the fact that there's a time period and you can't place where within that time period, just based on that data itself.
Yeah, that's what's recorded and shown to me. So again, that's what it's shown. I can't say otherwise.
Your conclusion was that John O'Keefe could not have been at 34 Fairview Road at 12:22 and 14 seconds because Waze put him on Oakdale Road about a half mile away, correct?
12, yes, correct.
All right. And that caused you to disregard the Apple Health data or to attribute it not to steps or to stairs because he was a half mile away between that 12:22 and 12:24 time period, correct?
Yes, I attribute it to movement.
All right. So I want you to assume for a moment, Trooper, that John O'Keefe's phone location actually showed him on Oakdale Road 3 minutes earlier at 12:19 a.m. Okay? If you have that in mind?
You okay?
All right. With that assumption, would you agree with me that the Apple Health data about him taking 80 steps and climbing up or down 3 floors at 34 Fairview Road would make more sense?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Sure.
Sir, are you aware that apps on an iPhone may pull data from 3 different clocks when they're timestamping location data?
You mean like Mac absolute time or Apple
I'm
Coca-Cola
asking
time?
you. Are you aware?
Multiple timestamps that are in an iPhone, correct?
That's not my question. My question was, are you aware that an app on an iPhone may pull data by choosing from 3 different clocks when it timestamps location data?
Yes.
What are those 3 separate clocks?
Depends on the program. It could be the Mac absolute time. It could be the Unix epoch time. And sorry, there's like 2 others. I don't remember them all off the top of my head.
With regard to John O'Keefe's actual iPhone, did you research what clocks were available for apps to pull data from?
No, I didn't.
Are you aware that those 3 clocks can vary in time?
Yes.
Sometimes for a matter of seconds.
What do you mean? So
In other words, the 3 clocks could be seconds apart, correct?
I would have to see the data.
And you would agree with me that sometimes the clocks could be off by 3 minutes, correct?
No, again, I would have to see the data.
May I approach?
Yes. Mr. Lally, did you get a chance to look at that?
No. Okay, Trooper, I'm going to place this before you and ask you to review it, directing your attention specifically to what is marked process 3434.
Okay. Okay.
Do you see the process 3434 highlighted in blue on what I've placed before you?
Yes, sir.
And with regard to the right side of that exhibit, do you also see process 3434 with more information on the right side?
Yes.
And do you see the 3 different clocks that are listed on that printout?
I do.
What are those 3 different clocks?
Sorry, it's a bit blurry. Monotonic date time, baseband date time, and then display date time.
And looking at that, and by the way, do you recognize that as being information that was available from John O'Keefe's phone from the extraction?
Yes.
I would offer that as an exhibit, Your Honor.
Any objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
What are we going to call that, Mr. Yannetti? How are we going to refer to that?
It could be called, a printout regarding 3434,
Okay.
or printout from John O'Keefe's phone.
It's 640.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now you have Exhibit 640 in front of you, sir. Looking at 640, is it clear to you that those 3 clocks were not in sync regarding that one process number?
Yes.
In fact, the monotonic clock regarding this particular Waze artifact from John O'Keefe's phone says 2:22 a.m., while the baseband and display clocks have timestamps 3 minutes earlier, correct?
Yes.
So if there's a 3-minute difference between the clocks, well, strike that. Do you know, with regard to that 2:22 a.m. location data on Waze, do you know which clock Waze was using for that? Or the iPhone was using with Waze?
I don't. I didn't look through Axiom. I was using Cellbrite for that.
Okay. But certainly that would have been available to you had you looked at it, correct?
Well, but the artifact you show me is from the power log. It has nothing to do with the GPS, so it's not correct.
You could have looked at that exhibit right?
Yes,
The
and I'm-
information in that exhibit to see the 3 different clocks, sir?
Yes, but I can explain why this is incorrect.
All right, maybe Mr. Lally will ask you.
Sounds
All right?
good.
But you would agree with me if there's a 3-minute difference between the clocks and you don't know which clock was used to put John O'Keefe's phone on Oakdale Road at 2:22 a.m., that could explain. Let me just have a minute. It's not 2:22.
I know what you meant.
Mr. Jackson, thank you. I'm sure everybody else did. With regard to the 3-minute discrepancy between the clocks, and you've said you don't know which clock Waze was using to put John O'Keefe's phone on Oakdale Road at 12:22 a.m., that could explain the discrepancy between the Apple Health data and the Waze data, could it not?
No.
But as you sit here today, you don't know whether Waze was relying on the baseband display or monotonic clock, correct?
Again, can't be used for that.
Now, you're aware that Jennifer McCabe signed a consent form on February 2nd of 2022 for her cell phone to be imaged?
Yes.
And a full forensic extraction was performed on that phone sometime shortly after February 2nd of 2022?
I don't remember the exact date. I didn't download her phone.
But in any case, you generated a Celebrite full file system extraction report on May 31st of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And you were aware that that Celebrite report was the one that was turned over to the defense in this case, correct?
That is correct.
But you'd agree with me that that extraction report didn't contain anything close to the full file system, despite the name on it, correct?
It did.
Well, that report was filtered to return only Jen McCabe's communications with Karen Reed, Kerry Roberts, John O'Keefe, and Kaylee Furbish, correct?
That is not correct.
Did Michael Proctor instruct you to pull only those communications?
Objection.
You didn't seek to obtain any of Jennifer McCabe's communications with her sister, Nicole Albert, did you?
I didn't go through, like I said, didn't go through Jen McCabe's info.
And you didn't seek to obtain any of her communications with her daughter, Allie Albert, did you? I'm sorry, Allie McCabe.
Objection. May we approach?
Sure.
You would agree with me that the full forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's phone was not shared with the defense until it was requested by us in October of 2022, sir?
That is not true.
When you wrote your report on April 24th of 2023, in response to an affidavit provided by Rick Green, the defense forensic computer expert, it was in that report that you finally disclosed for the first time the existence of 3 Google searches by Jennifer McCabe, correct?
Objection.
All right, so ask that differently.
Prior to April 24th of 2023, you had not reported in any formal manner with anything that was shared with the defense about the existence of 3 Google searches by Jennifer McCabe, correct?
I never looked at Jennifer McCabe's phone.
And so was there anybody else from your unit or anybody else that you worked on that provided that material to us?
Not that I know of.
All right. Page 2, if I may just a moment. Your Honor, we don't have a printout, but I have it on a.
So don't
Can I approach with that?
approach the witness with that? Okay, show it to Mr. Lally first.
So I'm going to see if I can
Yeah.
place this before you without destroying the
I got it.
computer.
Yep.
Sorry, sir. You take a moment to familiarize yourself with that. Do you understand, or can you tell the jury what that is?
Yep. This is you could put in a PDF. This isn't one I gave to you. This is a PDF version of the UFED reader report that I gave. So I gave the portable Celebrite version to you. This is a copy of it, and I will not testify that anything in this is correct, because this could have been filtered.
But your name is on there, is it not, sir?
Yes, it is.
All right, and what's the date?
May 31st, 2022.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. You'd agree with me with regard to that April 24th of 2023 report, on page 2, you state, quote, "In my initial Celebrate UFED reader report," and then you put version 7.53.0.29, "that was created on May 4th of 2022, the search history for Jennifer McCabe's phone had 2 Google searches in Safari, correct?
Yes.
And you list out how long TI die in CIKD at 6:23:51 and Hoslong to die in cold at 6:24:37, correct?
That is correct.
And by the way, with regard to the timing of those 2 particular searches, you are aware, are you not, that Jennifer McCabe placed a call to Brian Albert at 6:23 and 0 seconds?
I don't have it in front of me. I don't.
Can I approach you on?
Yes.
Thanks.
All right, sir, I placed before you a document. Could you familiarize yourself with that and then tell the jury if you recognize what it depicts?
I have a call log that says 20888 with no name at 6:23. That's incomplete because there should be 3 other records accounting for this call.
Okay, but that record itself reflects a call from Jennifer McCabe's phone at 6:23 and 0 seconds?
I don't know. There's no number on here, so I can't tell. It just says it's a call log with 1 call that's not answered at 6:23 in the morning doesn't say who it's from or who it's going to.
Okay.
It also is incomplete because there should be 2 other records with this. This is from the call history stored data wall, marked as deleted.
It's marked as deleted. Does it give a duration?
It just says duration 0 seconds.
Okay, and does it reflect that it was unanswered?
It does.
Okay. May I have that mark for identification, please?
Okay? Thank you.
Did you investigate whether a call was placed from Jennifer McCabe to Brian Albert at 6:23 in the morning and 0 seconds?
I didn't look at any specific calls that morning. I created a Cellbrite report. That's about it.
Did you ask either Ian Whiffen or Jessica Hyde to look into that issue?
Objection.
Sustained.
You would agree with me that that call and the record of that deletion of that call is nowhere in your April 24th report, correct?
I believe it's in my May 9th report.
All right, but I asked you about your April 24th report, sir?
I didn't address anything regarding phone calls in my April 24th report.
All right, now going back to when you began your examination around May 4th of 2022, you were looking for information on, did you look on Jennifer McCabe's phone back in May 4th of 2022?
Did I physically open the phone or did it
Did you review the data at all?
I'm confused, on the cell phone itself or from the report?
Either way.
No, her phone was returned to her and then we had the extraction. I did not utilize the extraction at all.
You never included the 2 searches that we discussed, how long TI die in CIKD and Hoslong to die in cold, in the full file system extraction that was turned over to the defense, did you?
They were included.
Well, page 6 of your April 24th, 2023 report goes on to state that when you switch to a new version of Celebrate, and this
Sorry.
one dropped out.
Yeah, it was the phone call, the Paul log.
Page 6 of your April 24th, 2023 report says that when you switched to a new version of Celebrate Physical Analyzer, which was version 7.61.0.12, you found an artifact from the browser state DB wall file for a Google search of Hoslong dying cold at 2:27 and 40 seconds, correct?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Trooper, I'm placing before you what has been marked as Exhibit 99. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's the searches that were done at 6:23 regarding the misspelled how long to die in the cold.
Okay, and it's actually Hoslong to dying cold,
Yes.
right? HOS?
Yep, that was,
That was marked by Celebrate as deleted, was it not?
yes.
All right. And your April 24th, 2023 report goes on to mention 2 deleted calls to Jen McCabe's sister, Nicole, who was saved as Coco in her phone, correct?
I'd have to see it, but I believe so.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
Showing you what's been marked Y for identification. If you'd familiarize yourself with that and look up at me when you're done.
Okay.
Does that show the 2 deleted calls to Jen McCabe's sister, Nicole, who was saved as Coco in her phone?
I don't know who it's coming from, but it does say it's going to Coco, and then, again, coming from wall files, correct.
All right. And your report doesn't mention it, but what was the duration of those 2 calls according to that log?
On this sheet here, it says 9 seconds for the first one and then 7 seconds for the other.
All right. And those calls, both of them, which actually had durations, were marked answered by Celebrate, correct?
Yes.
May I offer that, Your Honor?
Do you need
An
both?
objection?
I believe it's already in, but
I'm sorry?
I believe it's already.
Why for identification?
No, I understand. I believe Ms. McCabe's phone calls and all of that is already marked as an exhibit months ago.
Your Honor, I don't think there's any harm in marking this, and I want to display it.
All right, I'll let you display it if it's already in evidence. I just don't want duplicates.
I understand.
So what I'll do is I'll let you display it, and then, Mr. Lally, at some point you find where this is, and we will mark this like A to whatever
Okay, that makes a lot of
whatever the number is.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Bates, if you could display what was marked Y for identification. And Trooper, with regard to what is displayed on the screen now, is that consistent with what I had just handed to you?
Yes, it is.
All right. And with regard to the first entry there, you had stated that it doesn't say you said it doesn't say who was making the call. Was that your testimony?
Yes, just says right here,
Yep.
2. I'm guessing that's the last 4 of the number, since the rest is blurred, and then, yeah, that's it.
Okay. And you know that 0204 last 4 digits, that is to somebody who was listed as Coco in the phone.
It says right here,
Yep.
2. I'm guessing that's the last 4 of the number, since the rest is blurred, and then, yeah, that's it.
Okay. And you know that 0204 last 4 digits, that is to somebody who was listed as Coco in the phone, correct?
I don't know any of these phone numbers or people.
But you previously testified these 2 calls were somebody who was named Coco in the phone.
Oh, yeah, from the sheet you gave me that shows it.
Okay. And the time of the first call was 6:07:42, is that right?
That's correct.
And you testified that that's the one that had the duration of 9 seconds,
Yes.
listed as answered
Correct.
and deleted, correct?
Yes and no. And I can explain if you'd like.
It's listed as deleted, is it not?
There's a reason why.
Is it listed as deleted?
It is, but there's a reason why.
With regard to the second call, that appears to be to the same number, or at least the same last 4 digits.
Yes.
And in the sheet in front of you, that's also to Coco, correct?
Yes.
And that has a timestamp of 6:08 and 17 seconds, correct?
That is correct.
That also has a duration, and that's of 7 seconds,
Yes.
also listed as answered,
Yes.
and also marked deleted, correct?
Yes, and there's a reason.
And are you aware that Ms. McCabe made other calls that morning which were in fact marked unanswered by Celebrate?
Again, I'd have to see what you're referring to.
So as you testified to here today, you have no memory as to whether or not she made a number of other calls that were marked deleted, sir?
There are a number of calls that morning. I have not memorized all of them.
And again, Your Honor, if I may approach to show something that's on a computer screen.
Thank you. Got it.
Okay. I've placed before you what appears to be a PDF document on a computer screen. If you familiarize yourself with it and look up at me when you're done.
Okay.
What does that appear to be, sir?
An incomplete PDF of the call logs from whoever's call log this is.
Okay. And do you see in that PDF that there were a number of calls that were marked unanswered by Celebrate?
Again, I can't testify to any of this because I can't confirm that where this data came from. There's no source file. This is it's incomplete. So I do see what you're talking about in that column, but I don't know what any of this data is from or who made this.
Is your name on it?
At the very top, it would show my name no matter what because I created the UFED and the extraction. I did not create this PDF.
So the answer to my question is your name is on that document, correct?
It is, but I didn't create it.
Right. And with regard to the calls that were marked unanswered, would you agree with me that Celebrate had them with durations of 0 seconds?
Objection.
Can you agree with that? Can you answer that question? If you can, please answer it.
With the data given here, I can't because, like I said, I don't know where they got this from, Your Honor.
So who created that document?
I don't know.
So are you testifying that nobody in law enforcement created that document, or no forensic expert for the Commonwealth created that document?
I created the extraction and made a UFED reader report, which is basically a portable Celebrate version that I use at the office. I gave that to defense. I don't know who created this PDF version of data with specific things. I did not.
Was it Michael Proctor?
No. As I said, I was the only one that created any Celebrate-related reports in this case.
Well, I'd like to ask you some questions about my client's cell phone, sir.
Okay.
On Tuesday, when Mr. Lally was questioning you, he had you point out and read some text messages that were on her phone between John O'Keefe and her, correct?
Those messages were taken from John O'Keefe's phone.
Okay. Would you agree with me when he was pointing out those text messages to you, he skipped about 40 pages of messages at one point?
I don't know. I believe their text messages went back all the way to 2020 or something ridiculous in his phone.
He started reading them and he skipped ahead about 40 pages, did he not?
I have no idea.
Michael Proctor seized my client's phone on January 29th of 2022, did he not?
He did.
And you would agree with me that certainly as of 6 days later, your February 4th report, you had not yet been able to access the content of the phone, correct?
That's not true.
At some point, you were able to access the content of the phone, correct?
Yes, on January 31st.
Of 2022?
Yes.
All right. You later became aware that Michael Proctor was searching through my client's phone in August of 22, correct?
The actual device itself? Or the extraction report?
Either one, sir.
I have, I'm sorry, Ms. Reed's phone?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we didn't,
Hey, John O'Keefe's phone?
yes, that's why I was
I
confused, sorry.
apologize. I'm not trying to confuse you.
Yeah.
With regard to my client's phone, which is where we started.
Yeah.
You're aware that Michael Proctor was searching through her phone in August of 2022.
Of the extraction report created, correct.
Were you made aware that on January 1st of 2023, the defense requested a full forensic image of Karen Reed's phone, which was in your possession?
I don't know the date, but a request was made for the phone extraction, yes.
And have you seen a forensic image or celebrate a report of the forensic image from Karen Reed's phone?
The redacted version that I received back from the AG's office, yes.
Okay. And would you please tell the jurors how many phone calls were deleted from Karen Reed's phone from January 29th of 2022?
None.
And if you'd please tell the jurors, other than to John O'Keefe, to whom did Ms. Reed place phone calls between 12 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. on January 29th?
Her parents twice. There 2 or 3 times there's calls to her parents, and that's it.
And how many Google searches did she do from 12 a.m. until 5 a.m.?
I don't believe there were any.
Okay. And how many Google searches were deleted by Ms. Reed at any point on January 29th of 2022?
I can't speak to that because we got a redacted version of the report, so I don't know what was taken out by the AG's office. I don't know what files they went in to remove, so I only have what I was given.
But leaving that aside, sir, with regard to all of the data that was provided to you, how many Google searches did you see or find that Karen Reed deleted from January 29th of 2022?
A few.
During what time period?
The afternoon, but again, there was artifacts that I found that weren't date and time stamped, and there were some that were with corresponding timestamps, but I can't say for sure when that was done.
Okay. But you saw no deleted calls, correct?
No, not that I know of.
All right. If I may have a moment?
Yes.
Sorry.
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Guarino, you were asked about qualifications as far as certifications that you received in prior trainings, correct?
Yes.
What are some of the areas that you received certifications in?
Cell phone report creation, extraction, cell phone repair, the Berlin Motor Vehicle Forensics, advanced database, the class is called CASA, but it's a Cellbrite-made class that goes deeper into the database searching, SQLite programming to write code to do your own searches, things of that nature.
Now, at any point in time, did Trooper Proctor ever tell you that he retrieved Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone directly from 34 Fairview Road?
No, he didn't.
Is it your understanding, or subsequently did you learn that Kerry Roberts actually recovered the phone from under Mr. O'Keefe's body, from the grass under his body at 34 Fairview Road when he was placed onto a scoop stretcher?
I don't know who recovered the phone that morning, but I know.
I'll allow it.
I don't know.
Your answer is you don't know who recovered it?
No, I just know that it was found underneath his body and then taken to Canton PD.
Now, with regard to that, as far as the location data post 6:15 a.m., what, if anything, did you observe in reference to that?
There was some intermittent native locations that showed at the Canton PD. It's there for a handful of different points, and then it shows it back at our office when I put it into the digital evidence lab, powered on to plug in.
You received the phone from Trooper Proctor. Was that either in airplane mode or a Faraday bag?
I don't remember offhand.
But there were no locations or GPS locations that you observed from the phone from that approximately 11 something a.m. until you retrieved it or received it, excuse me, at 7:30 p.m. on the 29th?
There's, like I said, there was only the handful that showed it at Canton PD, and then when it's back at the office that night. And then if it wasn't in airplane mode, it would have been something I would have done. So I don't remember if Proctor did it before he gave it to me or if I did it after.
Now, the other troopers in your unit, in the detective unit with the Norfolk DA's office, are they as well versed on cell phone extractions and cell phone data as you are?
No.
And so again, how many people within your specific unit actually perform data extractions or forensic analysis of cell phone?
Myself, Trooper Connor Keefe, and everyone has been trained in how to use Cellbrite and to do these extractions. They all just sort of dump them on my desk and say, do this phone for me. So.
Now, as far as what you provide to one of the investigating troopers, such as Trooper Proctor, can you explain to the jury sort of that process of how what if any differences there are between what you're looking at as far as the device when you're extracting the information and what you provide to the trooper?
So when I plug into Gray Key or Cellbrite or whatever tool I'm using to extract the data, it creates that zip file, and then I open it up in Cellbrite or Axiom. The guys are only trained in Cellbrite, so that's what I open the extractions initially in for them. If there's something that we find that they don't understand and that I want to look more into, I'll load into Axiom as well. But that's normally how it would go.
Now, is there any way from the version or the extraction that you provide to the trooper, is there any way for that or any trooper to change or manipulate that data from what is initially contained on the phone?
Well, in essence, you could, but you'd have to go in. So once I create like that UFED reader, which is the portable case, you would have to go into the folders and then delete stuff, which would change all of the data. And then when I would load it up later, it probably wouldn't work right. But that's why we save the encrypted extraction onto the server. So if anything ever messes up, we can go back and reload it, and I can create whatever reports I need with it.
And so from your review of the data in the phones in this case, what, if anything, did you observe in regard to any manipulation of data or deletion of data or removal of data from what you observed?
From the encrypted files that we have, none. And then we didn't have passcodes for the phones for John O'Keefe's until the 31st, and then again for Miss Reed's until, like I said, August, once the program was able to open it.
Now, you were asking questions about Mr. Green's affidavit. Following your review of Mr. Green's affidavit, what, if any, steps did you take in relation to what was indicated in there?
So as I said, I didn't really go through the phones much when we first got them. I don't know everything about the case as the investigators do, so I got his report and I went through it and basically just went step by step. So he says, this happened, I went to confirm it. If it didn't, then I need to find out why he was either incorrect or slightly off and either just completely wrong or just misinterpreted the data, and that was it.
And in addition to yourself going through some of the data, who, if anyone, did you contact to assist or to also, in addition, go through the data specifically as it related to the searches for Mr. Case?
So initially, when I first found it, I spoke with Chris Vance of Magnet Forensics. He's their head technical guy for Axiom. He's like their forensic specialist. So he was at the cybercrime conference. I brought him.
I'm going to allow this.
I brought the extraction there and I said, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what it parsed out. Why are we seeing it marked this way? And he goes, well, first off, you have to look exactly where it's coming from. The browser state.
Sure.
So I'll strike that last part, what he told you.
Okay. Reviewing the data, we saw that it came from the browser state DB file and .wall file, I should say, at the end. So it set off a lot of red flags. And then from there, we contacted Cellbrite and ultimately Jessica Hyde.
And ultimately, Mr. Whiffen as well, is that correct?
Yes, he came in after Cellbrite. I had reached out to them and they escalated it up, and he reached out to us to help us.
Now, with respect to the health data that you were asked about, again, if you could explain to the jury when something in there in the health data says steps, what exactly does steps mean?
As I said before, the phone is seeing movement. Doesn't necessarily mean you're taking steps. If you have the iWatch paired to it, you're going to get a greater level of accuracy, and I would be more apt to believe that steps are being taken because it's going to also bring your heart rate. So if you're taking a large amount of steps, it's going to correspond.
Now, you were asked a lot of questions on cross-examination about just the health data and just the health data. Why is it that you would look beyond just the health?
Well, you have the GPS points as well as the health data. We're trying to look at everything together as a whole. You take one artifact and say, well, this means this, but you could have 5 others that disclaim it. So that's why we look at all of this stuff.
Now, from that same information as far as the GPS data, that indicated that Mr. O'Keefe's phone arrived at 34 Fairview Road at 12:25 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as the clocks or the 3 different clocks that was presented to you, that's now been marked for identification, you indicated that those were not accurate, is that correct?
Well, the file that it's coming from is not accurate. So it came from a power log file. That's the database it pulled from. So that it's telling you the power of the phone. So when I looked at that, that also shows the battery level. And that's how I was able to show that, or see, I should say, that John O'Keefe's phone never turned off. It dropped down to about 17% battery level. From being under his body, it was actually saved it from dying overnight. Then it also shows the timestamps of when it gets plugged in and as it goes up. That has 3 different timestamps. That's what that is from. That is not when Waze is started. That is not when the address is put in. That is strictly for the power log. There's nothing to do with anything else.
And so, again, just sort of to that point, what, if any, connection to those timestamps in the the document marked for identification Mr. Unetti showed you, what, if any, relationship does that have to the timestamps contained within either the Waze or the GPS native locations or anything else that you were testifying about before?
It's literally showing that Waze has been opened and that it's pulling power from the phone, and that is it. That is nothing else.
Now, with regard to, you were asked some questions about Ms. McCabe signing a consent for extraction on February 2nd, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Kerry Roberts, she did the same on the same date. Is that also correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Now, the entirety of those extractions from both Ms. McCabe's phone and Ms. Roberts' phones, those were both provided well in advance of the dates that counsel was indicating, correct?
That is correct.
Now, in regard to the Celebrite extraction, in regard to Mr. Green's affidavit, Celebrite has periodically updates the versions of their software, correct?
That is correct.
And if you could you speak a bit about sort of the update in those versions and how that pertains to this case and specifically Ms. McCabe's searches?
So the initial report that I created with version 7.53 did not have that item to be able to be taken out. I was told by Celebrite that 7.55 was the version that was enabled. Mr. Green used version 7.61, so that's why it presented itself then.
Can I just stop you there for 1 second? The version that Mr. Green used, was that available at the time that you did the initial extraction?
No, it wasn't available for like a year later. It was like 10 upgrades later.
Sorry, sir, continue.
So again, he did the extraction, he looked at it, finds this artifact that's parsed out, and then I had to go back in and scramble to say, well, why didn't I see it the first time when that report, why didn't it pull? So I reloaded the 7.53 version, it's not there, and then when I loaded into 7.61, it is. So there's just an issue with the software at the time.
So, sir, with regard to those Google searches, what, if any, opinion did you have as to when those Google searches were conducted?
When Ms. McCabe told us that it happened at 6:23 and 6:24, and then there was a third one later at 10:35 that, again, if she reopened that browser window, it's going to reload the search, and then That was it. Those are the 3 times that I saw in the phone extraction that were real searches.
And why is it that it's your opinion that they occurred at 6:23 and 6:24 in the morning and not 2:27?
Well, it's just physically impossible to search 2 things at once. Her phone, she's searching the daughter's basketball at 2:27, and then she's searching It's Raining Men and a few other things on her phone, listening to music. And I think then she goes to bed a few hours later. So I was told as the defendant asked her to search for those terms, that's when we believed that they were done.
Now, as far as all files or write-ahead log, having things listed as deleted, if you could just speak a little bit more about that as far as why would something be listed as deleted in a wall file and what does that mean?
Again, the user has no input on how a wall file is deleted. It's an automated thing that the database does to clean up. It auto deletes after either programs are closed, it reaches a max data allotment for that page. That is it.
And that would include any sort of call log history that was contained in the write-ahead log or the wall file as well?
That is correct.
And so what, if any, opinion do you have as to those phone calls that you were showing in relation to the contact listed in Ms. McCabe's phone as Coco, as far as whether or not they were user deleted?
Well, again, what the defense showed me was limited thing. I know should be 2 other locations that phone call was listed from looking at it myself. So I don't know why they gave me just the 2 deleted things, but there should be other spots in the database where that phone call was there. So I don't believe that it was user initiated. It was phone initiated.
And that's in reference to the write-ahead log, sort of first in, first out as far as data that comes in. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, again, as far as your unit was concerned, you were the only one who created any Cellbrite reports in relation to any of the phones, in this case with the exception of the defendant's phone that was created by the Attorney General's office following their extraction of privileged material, correct?
Objection.
So objection is sustained as to the form. This seems a good place to stop. So jurors, we'll take the luncheon break. All right, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So with reference to this case, this investigation, who, if anyone besides you, created any Cellbrite reports or extractions from any of the phones involved in this case?
Other than the AG's office, it was just myself.
And now you had mentioned that there was some deleted material from the defendant's phone from the afternoon of January 29th, 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what was that was deleted?
There were some search items that were not there in the phone, but found cookies related to said searches and websites visited.
So as far as search terms or web history, were those the areas that were deleted?
Yes, that's correct.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we brought you back for that, Trooper. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to allow it.